Nothing's inappropriate.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Carver Selectmen's meeting today, October 16th, 2012. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. A couple of announcements before we get into the meat of the agenda. There are openings on the following committees: Carver Cultural Council, Commission on Disability, BDC, Finance Committee, Old Colony Regional Vote Tech School Committee, 2 positions, Local Housing Partnership Committee, Recreation Committee, ZBA alternate, Website Committee, 2 positions, and a Growers Representative to the Earth Removal Committee. Please contact the Selectmen's office for an application. And also, reminder, donations to the Carver Food Pantry can be made at the Council on Aging on Lakeview Street and the Carver Public Library. Please be generous. It's going to be a difficult winter, I think. So, all right, the first item up is Police Chief Mike Mix to come up and recognize Officer Anthony Luca for 37 years of service.
Thank you. Officer Luca, something came up at the last minute that Officer Luca couldn't make it this evening. So if you're all here expecting cake, I'm sorry I didn't get one. Anyways, Officer Luca has dedicated 37 and a half years to the town. He retired September 30th. To kind of put it in perspective, I started thinking back to when Tony started. It was March 1975. So I had to go out on the web and look up a few things to try and figure out exactly when 1975 was, because the only thing I remember is, well, I was in 2nd grade, and I remember polyester being big. That's about it. So
Thank you, Mike.
It's not anymore?
Carver, the population of Carver was a little over 4,200 people. The police station was located in the basement of this building before we got that new building next door that we all love. And now, you're looking at about 12,000 people. The average median house in America was worth about $12,000. And I had to laugh because I went through the old town reports and I found that Chief Orr was requesting 2 police cruisers, Chevy station wagons, for a whopping total of $12,000. Having just built 2 new Crown Vics for you, they came in at about $30,000 apiece. So the world's changed quite a bit in 37 and a half years that Anthony's been with us. Anthony is kind of a private person and quietly would go about his day. I worked for him for a number of years, partnered up with him a lot of times on the day shift. And Anthony was a treat to work with at times because he'd constantly be telling you stories. Obviously, at 37 and a half years, he's got a lot of stories. And I always joked around that before I bought a house in town, I'd check with him because he could tell me every house where somebody passed away or, where something bad happened. So I always kind of got a little nervous about parts of town. But one thing that Tony, people don't realize that Tony did, when I say he quietly went about his business, I'll just share with you one story about Anthony. A number of years ago, we got a call for a man down. When you get that over the radio, it's pretty much guaranteed that somebody, it's a life or death thing. So Anthony got out in the bogs where they called that this person was down and began CPR on the person. The ambulance showed up. He handed him off to the EMTs, and off the gentleman went to the hospital. Now, that's not really extraordinary in a police officer's day. That's our job. We should be doing that. What turned out to be extraordinary about it is the gentleman was laying next to a bunch of beehives. Again, that's not extraordinary, so what, you're going to get stung. Tony's allergic to bees, and Tony went in and assisted him and did his job. So when I say that sometimes people quietly go about their jobs and we don't realize it, Anthony did that for you day in and day out for 37 years. Again, he couldn't be here. I wish he could, because then I'd tell you a bunch of funny stories about how he's afraid of snakes and reptiles, but we'd be here all night. Anyways, Anthony, if you see him around town or when he does come in, make sure you tell him thank you. And remember that the rest of the members of the Carver Police Department are here to serve you, hopefully quietly each day. not too noisily. So thank you very much for your time. I believe you got something as well.
I think what people have to understand is when you're allergic to bees, one bee sting can kill you. So that was pretty heroic for Tony to do that.
Thank you, Chief Mix. Certainly well-deserved. And I know that Officer Luker and his wife Judy are out there probably watching the show right now. So, Anthony, on behalf of the Board of Selectmen, I have a certificate of appreciation and recognition presented to Police Officer Anthony Tony Luker. On the 16th day of October 2012, the Selectmen, on behalf of the residents of the town of Carver, expresses their deepest gratitude for your 37 years of service with the Carver Police Department. The town of Carver can never thank you enough for the valuable services you have provided the community. Signed by all the members of the Carver Board of Selectmen. Thank you, Anthony. Godspeed, fair wind and following seas in the rest of your days. Thank you. Anybody like to add anything?
I wouldn't, Mike, please. I'm pretty proud of the fact that I was on the Board of Selectmen when Tony was appointed to the police department. And he has provided tremendous service to our community and all its citizens. Oddly enough, I was also there when that man went down. And he was laying that far from the beehive, okay? And it was more than one, there were three. And when they came, Tony was right there doing CPR, and the guy's chest was this far from the beehive. So he was taking a big chance. So, thank you.
Quiet, huh? It's not the end of the world. Anthony will go on to bigger and better things, I'm sure. So, good luck, Anthony, to you and Judy and the family. Next up on our agenda is the school committee chairman, Lance Kennedy, to discuss forum results and any other issues. Welcome, Lance. And welcome, Liz, Pat, rest of the members from the school.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and Board of
And
Select-
Callie, I'm sorry, don't let me forget Callie.
Yes, represented tonight, we do have and James O'Brien is here as well, but he is doing dual duty in the dual meetings tonight, so we'll be back and forth. But again, thank you for the opportunity to come before you this evening and kind of just share some of the things that have been going on. Thanks, Kelly. Share some of the things that have been going on with still looking at the needs that we have to address with the elementary school and some of the things that have happened since kind of the last vote and where we are with that. So just to kind of give a quick summary of what's happened since the school committee, we did a survey in the community to kind of,
Can I interrupt you a bit?
yes.
They're having trouble hearing you over there, Lance. I don't know if it's, is that mic on, working? Yep.
How's that?
Raise your hand again, Rod, if you have a problem hearing somebody, okay? Thank you. Okay, sorry
Hear
about
me
that.
now, Rod? Is that better? Okay, sounds good. So we did a survey and got some general feedback from the community that there's still interest in a need and a desire to see that the elementary school gets addressed. So from that, we really hopefully trying to learn from past failures in this process and try to get the whole community involved in the process. So with that, we called a forum in the end of August to really get some direct feedback from our citizens as to the interest level, the desire to see the needs addressed, and then what direction maybe we should go with that. So through the help of the K-12, they helped mediate the process. Each meeting, we had about 30 participants in each, well represented from both selectmen, school committee members, members of the community, parents. So it was good kind of an overall representation of the community to kind of help give the feedback that it's important as we move forward in this process. So as you have before you kind of some of the results of that, and I'll just do a quick summary for those in the community to kind of share what came out of that. Some key observations that they shared. One was that the conversation did have a great constructive tone, and I think that was one of the important things going into this process was no matter where you stand on the issue, it's important that we all get together and have a open and real conversation about the process. And I think that the forums were a good start in that process of really opening up the lines of communication with that. And there was a good balance of both positive and negative references for the need for the new elementary school. Some of the positive sides were a need for a facility that gives the students an opportunity to really learn in an environment that's up to date, that has the technology necessary to help in their learning process, to give them learning space that's conducive to learning. And on the negative side, the challenges obviously are financial. Building a facility that's going to be able to be supported by the community. And so with those kind of two topics looking in, trying to making sure that it's something that's attainable with some of the big feedback from that process. Some of the things, the minimum facility requirements must address student and teacher needs. So as we look at a facility, no matter what we build, at its minimum and at its core, we should at least build a facility that's going to address those concerns and needs that we have educationally. As we know, it is an aging building, and there are structural challenges with it, but it also does have educational challenges with being built in an open school concept. The learning environment is a challenge. I can speak personally. My daughter has been in the K-2 section for the last several years with an open classroom concept, and now she's moved into 3rd grade and has a single room, and I've seen a difference already in just her focus. So the importance of that to the rest of the kids in our community to really see that moving forward, I think, is very important. With that, too, options to move forward need to be thoroughly discussed publicly. I think that's the big piece of it moving forward, and it's the simple solution, so to speak. We need to do this together. We need to come out of whatever we do moving forward, whatever we present to the state, needs to be one voice. It needs to come from this community as one voice and move forward that way, and how important that is. Some of the topics that came out of it were, do we rebuild, do we renovate, or do we do nothing? Some of the things that were also recommended as options were, do we relocate the school to a different area? Do we regionalize, as we did in the past, such as with Plymouth, join another school system, or do we build more of a educational complex over at the high school, middle school area and have kind of one general educational location? It became clear kind of through some of the discussions that really kind of the two focus areas were building a new facility or renovating the existing one. The groups requested the information about maintenance and upkeep costs be presented. So let's look at all the different facts that are out there. What is it going to cost to maintain the facilities that we have now versus what it would cost to either renovate or build from scratch? And then the key line there at the end is whatever option is presented, cost must be affordable. And that continued to reign true throughout the conversation. And I think some of the also other concerns as we look to build a new facility is concerns from parents is how would this construction affect my child's education as we look to build or renovate, making sure the transition is done so that their education time is not affected. So that's going to be important as we move forward to make sure that that transition is done well. And then the key here, communication with all stakeholders is critical for success. Obviously talking about funding, logistics, communication, and in greater community participation are all pieces that moving forward, we've seen the results in the past. It's often been said it's to put it simply, it's foolishness to try to do the same thing and think we're going to get different results. And I think ultimately we need to look at that now and say, all right, what do we need to do differently as a community to get the outcome that is necessary to see better education for our kids in this community? So it's really looking at that now. Recommendations have been creating a website to help get the information out to the community, holding more meetings like we did in the forum, getting more opportunities for the community to speak out, to address their concerns. And then some of the important key messages must be shared with leadership and conveyed to the community, which is why I'm here before you tonight. As leaders in this community, it's important that you guys are aware of the conversations that have been taking place and hopefully are part of those conversations as we move forward. It's vital that all leadership in our community come together and really help address the concerns that are there. So that's something that one of the reasons that I was excited for the opportunity to come before you tonight, because I do think this isn't something that just has to come from our school committee, clearly. It needs to be from the Board of Selectmen. All our committees in the community need to really come behind whatever plan that we get to really have that one voice. And so I do thank you for that. Some of the key quotes out of the whole thing, make it affordable and I'll vote for it. We talked about some of the key themes, but stay away from extreme language. We need to kind of find that sensible center, and then collaboration is key, and that just echoes the sentiments that we've been sharing tonight. So some of the next steps. One is to kind of work on the website, kind of making sure that those that were part of the forum were able to hear some of the results, and that is done through tonight. So hopefully the community will be able to watch this as well and see the information that was shared that night. And then working on more of the community communication piece, creating a focus website, conducting regular input sessions, again, having more forums, and then reaching out to the stakeholders, those in the community, leaders such as yourself and other leaders in the community that are really going to help drive the next steps as to making this happen. So really my recommendation, or kind of taking out of this for the next steps, would be through you, Mr. Chair, if potentially the opportunity for a working group where representation from the Board of Selectmen, the school committee, and the committee at large, anyone that's sitting in this room, anyone in this community that would like to be a part of that, and really start the process of looking at what are the next steps, how do we make that happen, really looking at, as we look at the MSBA and what they require, their next steps come up. There's a chance that we can go before them and submit a letter of a statement of interest, which is just saying we're still interested in the funds if they're still there. So looking at that working group to really come together, one voice as a community, and say, yeah, we think it's a good time to go back, give a statement of interest just to see if they're still willing to spend the money on us, and then what steps from there that would take place. So it's something I put before you. We'd love to see that happen, and can work out some of the logistics as we move forward. But I think kind of at this stage, it's important to get all those involved, all the stakeholders involved, to really get us moving forward. I think to do nothing at this point would send a negative message, and it's something we want to try to continue to do something moving forward to make sure that this process is moving forward. So with that, I open it up for questions, comments, or any other things there. Thank you.
Callie, do you have anything to add before we?
And Callie, yes.
No, I'm just very happy that this process is here. This is something that I've strived for a couple years now, is just to get the community together. I think that, it's just the communication is essential. I didn't think we were getting too far battling. And I look forward to this process. I really look forward to finally all of us communicating and getting on the same page. I think it's important. I think it's important for the town. I think it's important for the children, and just move forward together. That's my statement.
Open it up to the board. Ellen, as she started
I
first.
just want to thank you. I think we're making a lot of progress, and thank you for putting those focus groups together. I was fortunate enough to be able to attend one of them, and I thought it was such a step in the right direction. And if it's up to us to form that working group, I am in full support of it, as I had mentioned during the campaign. And I think it's great that we have all the stakeholders involved, and I just want to thank you, because we're finally getting somewhere. Can I just ask one quick question?
Yes.
In terms of the two sessions that were conducted, do you know the breakdown of how many town officials versus teachers versus residents? Because I encourage all the residents out there for the next focus group that it is so worthwhile for everyone to attend this focus group, because it was very worthwhile. You have a chance to state what is on your mind and how you think that we can move forward with the new school. And this is where your voices can be heard. So I totally encourage residents to attend the next round of focus groups.
There were about 35 at each group, but we didn't double count people who stayed for two.
Yeah.
So it averaged out to be about 30. There were 8 teachers, but they were also residents. And one assistant principal who's also a resident. And then from the school committee, I believe that in the combined sessions, we had 4 out of the 5 school committee members there. Some stayed for 2 sessions. Same with the Board of Selectmen. And some stayed for 2 sessions, some stayed for only 1. Rick LaFont came, I was there. And the rest were community members. So, I'm gonna say a third were people directly involved, but they were all residents. And the school principal was there, but really just to help, so, but she doesn't live here.
That was a good start.
It was a very good start. The people at the facilitated it said it was, one of the best represented groups they've had. And I do have to thank the school committee because they each took a representative part of the Carver population. Callie alone got the young parents of preschool students to come, which we had not motivated them in the right way before to come to a forum. So that was great. We had at least 5 people who had represented the early childhood group.
And I just wanted to add a little bit about and thank the K-12 because I thought it was really nice to have a third-party person. It made a difference. I wasn't singled out as a school committee member. I don't know if you were singled out as selectmen, but we were all residents, and that was it. And it was awesome because a lot of people didn't even know I was on the school committee, and I just think it's so important for everyone to just be on the even ground. And I just want to say, thank you to K-12 because it was awesome.
Great
It
facilitator.
really was, and
really
the
was.
third party makes the difference.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jack, you had your hand up?
I think it makes a big difference that you're here tonight, and I'd like to see you come more often in front of the Board of Selectmen to report the results, because
I
a
would
lot
love
of
to.
people watch our meetings, and I know they watch your meetings,
Absolutely.
and they have trust in the leadership of the town. So I think for a communication standpoint, it communicates what's going on.
Absolutely. I welcome the opportunity.
And, my background is in finance, so that's what I've always been concerned with. And something pretty significant has just recently happened. 2 mobile home parks were able to buy out their owners. And what they bought it for was 64% above what their assessed value was. So we would need to work, I think, with the Board of Assessors to make sure, because what happens is when they value a piece of property for assessment purposes, they use comparable sales values, which would mean those values could go up quite a bit. There's a lot of people that live in mobile homes, and they all vote. We don't want to have the taxes shift over to them unfairly, because if that's what's going to happen, they might very well not be able to afford to fund a brand-new school.
Absolutely.
And just recently, the Social Security Administration announced that they're only going to be given a 1% increase in the Social Security. So that's something we have to be very much
Absolutely.
aware
And
of.
I think that just echoes the point of how important it is to come together as a community, because
That's right.
not all residents are affected, no matter where you stand, if you have children in the school system or not.
Well, there must be some methodology that we can have to mitigate those things. so that
Absolutely.
Our taxes
Well, and that's
don't
my
shift to
that
those
would be my
people.
challenge to the community. If you've got the skill in finance and in ways that can help us figure out a viable solution, then we need you, and it's important. We need all input.
Not
but
just me, it's the assessors. And
absolutely,
finance committee,
It's got to
and
be a
even-
community effort, and there's a
Yes.
lot of great minds in this community, and we're going to tap into that. So
Well, we know we have to build something, or we have to do something.
we have
Because
to
we
address.
can't use, my kids went there in the 80s, and it should have been replaced back then. So here we are, 20
Absolutely.
years later.
Well, and having worked in other towns and other areas, I do commend Carver for their foresight in looking at trying to address needs further ahead than having to look behind. So it's something as we look forward to hopefully making a viable solution. So again, I thank you for your time, and we'll
One more
We
thing.
may have a couple more questions here
sure,
from...
absolutely.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Is it up to us to form this working group, or was that your intent to form the working group?
I guess as far as logistics go, we would love to put that together, and then obviously invite the selectmen to be a participant in that, if that's kind of the dynamic that it's okay. We'd love to do that, sure.
I think set up an outline of who we want from each representative part of the community.
Sure.
And in fact, with what Jack just brought up, it might be a good idea to invite a representative from each of the manufactured home communities.
Just like the school committee did to get people to come to the forums, is the idea is that the school committee would work with the Board of Selectmen,
Right.
divide up who you would want to come, and you make the invite, and we have the double time thing so that, you can have a 3 o'clock and a 7 o'clock, so that people who aren't available at 1 could come. So just to get the conversation going, but the school committee could get the organizational piece together and then invite you to invite people.
Excuse me, it's on vibrate. I don't know why it does that.
Mr. Dance.
Thank you, Liz. Jack, go ahead.
I thought there was something wrong with me. Right there. I don't want to, I want to sound enthusiastic. I'm having difficulty because I strongly supported the school in the last votes. And so I'm looking and I'm saying, okay, how do I transition my head? Because we had like two parties for and against that whole thing. And we all got to transition our heads because the kids need the school. And however we go about it, but I appreciate your approach because it's right down the middle of the aisle right there. And I think we both got to come together and get it done. And we can't keep thinking about the things in the past. So I'm going to work on that in my own head. So I'm going to be shaking some hands with everybody to try to say, hey, let's work together.
Well, and as we've seen, that's what it's going to take. It is going to take everyone to make this happen. And ultimately,
So the new start, that's what we're at.
this
And
is,
so
this is a new beginning.
I'm very supportive of what we're talking about.
It's going to be very new for everyone because the MSBA rules since the last time we tread this path have changed drastically. So some of the things we knew before are now different rules. So we'll be all learning the new process together. So it really is a whole new slate, and we are can begin that fresh so that we don't have to think about what we said about this or what we said about that. It's a whole new way of doing it. They changed their, head person, so.
They want to put their own stamp on the organization. Sarah?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to also commend the school committee for standing up and, as elected officials, taking the bull by the horns and doing what you've done so far, and also for proposing the working group. I think it's a terrific idea. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, then I guess at this point, you'll be hearing from me. How's that?
Well,
Yes, to kind of lay the groundwork, what night would be conducive for the selectmen to kind of help us in the planning process?
for working group meetings,
The working groups, yes.
why don't you make some proposals and then I
Okay.
can run it
Yeah.
by everybody? Kind of put us on the spot right here. People
yeah,
have to
no,
look at their
no,
calendars and stuff.
Yeah,
No second
obviously
and
not
fourth
Tuesdays, yes.
Yeah, no second and fourth Tuesdays.
Absolutely. We'll work with that and,
You know, just to reiterate what some of my colleagues have mentioned, you guys are doing what you're supposed to do. You're advocating for the kids, for education, and for that, I commend you. I don't think that philosophically there's much disagreement amongst anybody involved in this entire issue, to be honest with you. I think the line that separates people is financial. And I think that if we focus on that, if we get creative, if we maybe do some things out of the box, I don't know, we got a lot of young, bright people coming up and stuff, maybe we can come to some kind of an accommodation so that we can put this issue to rest and allow our community to move on to other things too.
absolutely. I'd love to think that we're a part, as the leadership of this community, that would be part of something special. And when we look back at the new facility, that we can say we helped make a stamp on that. So hopefully we can do that as a community together. Definitely.
Thank you for joining us tonight.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Bye.
Mr. Chairman, very
Yes, sir.
quickly, I just got a message from the police chief that in case anybody felt some shaking, there was apparently an earthquake in Maine, which has caused some effects as south as this. So
That's why my phone went off. That's what it was.
Are you serious?
I'm totally serious, so I don't have any details, but
Nobody panic. Don't panic. That's the last thing we want. The Zumba.
From Kenny Bunk?
Unbelievable.
so Mike just thought that in case anybody felt some effects and didn't know what that
Didn't
was,
feel
so,
Okay, everybody's been forewarned now.
that's right.
Take it easy, relax.
What a group
Okay,
to go down
we're
with.
moving on to the audit committee and Chairman Bruce Kreiser.
I was hoping we'd evacuate, Mr.
This,
Chairman.
this says for potential possible vote too, so I think up front, what we're gonna need to do, there's three of us that have an interest in this specific committee. So I think that leaves two people, which is not a quorum. So I think we're gonna have to invoke the rule of necessity for all of us to participate in this. Gene, if you
Well, I
would
would-
kindly note that.
Before I give an update, I would appreciate it if I could find out what this possible vote is.
Well, Mr. Kaiser, well, once you tell us what's going on with the committee, maybe we'll have a better idea. I think that's what you were invited here for, right? To give us an update on the committee?
Well, right, but, you know,
Apparently, there's been some recent turmoil, some controversy within the community, within the committee.
well, unexpectedly, we found out that 3 of the 6 members had not been sworn in. And
This is, what, 9 months after the committee was constituted?
apparently, probably,
You're the chairman, right?
pardon?
You're the chairman, right?
Yes.
So it's apparently, or it is, or it isn't, what is it?
Probably about, yes, it would be 9 months. if
Okay.
the-
Thank you. Let's keep moving.
Well, what kind of an update would you like?
So the committee was improperly constituted, which means you didn't have quorums, you held meetings, you conducted votes in violation of Mass General laws. So you've wasted 9 months of the town's time and people's time that serve on the committee.
Well, it was certainly unintentional, but.
Nobody's saying it
the
was
update-
intentional. What is the plan?
Well, the rest of the members have been sworn in, and yeah, there have been votes taken, but they were approval of meeting minutes.
You couldn't hold a legitimate meeting.
I'm sorry?
You couldn't hold a legitimate meeting.
Well,
You approve minutes that aren't legitimate.
the issue was investigated, and there was a directive or there was an opinion rendered by town council. And what I have here that was given to me was town council's just advised that Chapter 41, Section 107 of the general laws directs that all elected and appointed officials be sworn in, but that the statute is one that is considered directory and not mandatory, in that there is no enforcement provision. Therefore, although the members should make every effort to be sworn in as soon as possible, there is no direction through the statute that invalidates either the appointments or actions taken by the committee to date.
Well,
Now,
I beg to differ with you on that.
Well, you know, that's an opinion from the town council.
And I have the Mass General Law, and I interpret that a little bit differently, okay?
Well,
We
I mean,
can't pick
are
or
you-
choose, we can't pick or choose which laws we want to follow or observe.
Well,
That's why they're writing,
can-
for us to follow them.
unless you want to completely disband the audit committee, that's entirely up to you.
Well, I
But
think,
the thing is that we haven't been able to have a meeting to discuss what our plans to do. If we invalidate all the votes, we invalidate the votes, or we re-vote any of the votes that had been taken previously. And if you feel as though that any of the interviews that we had were illegally obtained or illegally done, then we will start from scratch. But it's our intention, I mean, I took a look at the rendering or the advisement from town council, and other than the votes for the meeting minutes, I don't think we've wasted our time, or the town's time.
I think you've compromised the entire process and the members of your committee. And it failed miserably to lead that committee. And I think we should abolish the committee and start fresh. That's my opinion.
Through you, Mr. Chair.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Kaiser, I received a letter from one of the committee members that mentioned unprofessionalism and very upset about the way the meetings have been being run. Would you,
I know that.
but the more important point is he mentioned that two of the members sit on two different committees, which is inappropriate. Is that accurate?
No, that's not, I mean, that is not accurate. It's appropriate that they are on there. They were appointed by this Board of Selectmen, and they should have understood that even though that they were on other committees, that it was appropriate for them to be on there.
Mr. Chairman?
If I could just, I believe the membership of that committee is made up of people specifically who are on other committees.
May I? I'm looking directly at the Massachusetts Department of Revenue DOR report, and their suggestion on number 14 was to form an audit committee. And on that, their suggestions, and we took this one, and I'm trying to find the minutes, but they're suggesting somebody from the Finance Committee,
Okay.
somebody from the Selectmen, somebody with financial expertise, and 3 to 5 members on the total committee. So we had a couple of extra people, so we appointed 6, as I recall.
Correct.
And so it was pretty much spelled out by the audit committee as to what that committee, I mean, the DOR report, as to what that audit committee should be.
And Mr. Chair, if I
Yes,
could
ma'am.
throw in my 2 cents.
Sure.
The other, I think we appointed someone also from the Capital Outlay Committee as someone else who
There
was
was,
familiar with
Financial
finance.
right, that
experience.
was financial
Correct.
expertise.
Yep. Yeah.
But then it was pointed out that there's a provision in the bylaws that anybody that serves on the Capital Outlay Committee cannot serve on any other committees. So, again, there's another rule and regulation that only applies when we want to apply it, you know.
Isn't that also the case with the Finance Committee?
Yeah.
I
I'm not,
couldn't find anything on the Finance Committee.
That's one of the bylaws I
Well,
thought that the
it
town
is.
had passed
It
many
is.
years ago.
and I
Peggy
think that
says
it's
that.
a possibility, and I could be wrong, and Rick, you might want to look into this, but it's a possibility that the intent of that no other committees section is for it to be something permanent or something that's gained, that has some other sort of financial interest rather than an ad hoc subcommittee of the selectmen, which, but further clarification might be needed.
Well, how do you get the financial expertise if you don't include a person, at least from the Finance Committee, and/or the Capital Outlay Committee?
I didn't see anything on the Finance Committee.
Yeah, our finance committee bylaw does, I don't have the
It
language.
used to
in
a
front of me.
long time ago, I'm
Well, I
told.
think it still does, prohibits people from serving in other capacities, the full breadth of which I'm not. Obviously, the point of that is with some other statements in the bylaws that to prevent conflicts of interest.
Right.
Which, I think in this case, you were talking about an advisory committee to the Board of Selectmen, not a body that has any type of operational control or et cetera. So, again, I'm not gonna second guess why the Board of Selectmen felt it was important to have those memberships on the committee, but it is kinda hard not to have Finance Committee and Capital Outlay involved in this type of, endeavor. In fact, if you had a committee to for the sake of argument, to consider how, ways, methods to fund a new school building, how could you not have people of that ilk on that committee too? So I'm just saying.
Then
it
we need
creates
to
an issue.
rewrite the bylaw and
Might not be a bad
eliminate the
idea.
controversy, so. There's plenty of people out there in the community with financial experience and wherewithal. If we need to delve that deeply, we can certainly do that. But beyond that, there's still a large amount of controversy involved here. I mean, we got public emails, and you understand, as a chairman of the committee, your correspondence is all public record, right?
That's correct.
Okay. I mean, and we got people calling people errand boys, messenger boys, and we got
And
them stooping to their level, and I'm not sure what that meant. Can you explain that to me?
Well, there was a member of the committee who apparently felt that he needed to take matters into his own hand instead of working with the committee to resolve the issues. And the correspondence that went back and forth, my position is that he was appointed to the committee. The committee is supposed to work as a team or as a committee in order to resolve any issues or to perform their duties as charged by the Board of Selectmen. And that included all the appointed members of the committee, no matter what committees that they were on, other committees that they were on. I try not to work in a vacuum here, and I don't appreciate people going outside the committee without sitting down with the rest of the committee and blindsiding the rest of the members as to what they're supposed to be doing. And I expressed that to that committee member, and he kind of took exception to it, but then I made it very clear to him that you are a member of a committee, you are supposed to work with the committee. And I suppose that it was his opinion that I was behaving in an unprofessional manner, and I felt that he was behaving in an unprofessional manner. So I guess what you could say is that, yeah, there was some conflict, but it was in dealing with the way the committee should work. I mean, would you feel a little bit upset if one of the Board of Selectmen had an issue and went behind your back and did something?
They do it all the time.
Well, I mean, it's that, I mean, I'm trying to tell you that I'm running the committee in a professional manner, and if you don't have any problem with somebody acting professionally against you, well, then that's fine.
I beg to differ with you, because we live in a democracy, okay? People are entitled to do what they want, and you don't have as much control as you think you do.
Within reason. Within reason.
At any rate, my opinion is that the whole committee is dysfunctional because of what's transpired. And what we need to do is we need to abolish it, and if anybody wants to start it back up, we can start it back up, okay?
So
That's
you're
my
going
feeling.
against the Department of Revenue's recommendation that an audit committee be formed?
No, I'm not going against. What I said, if there's an interest in restarting it, then it can be started with new membership and new leadership, and maybe we can get somewhere with it.
I take exception to your comment.
You should. You should, but after 9 months,
I mean, somebody who,
you couldn't even constitute your committee properly.
somebody who talks about my profession shouldn't talk.
Hey, you can throw all the stones you want. I stand up, I take my hits, I take my medicine, and so should you. So, are there any other questions from the board? Mr. Freeney?
The committee was constituted by the Board of Selectmen, and town council works for us. Yet, in my packet here, I have no advice from town council, but the committee does, so, that's a concern to me.
Anything else from the board? Jack?
I have a question. You said, what were you talking about, vote of necessity?
Yes,
That 3 of you were not eligible to vote?
right. Well, 3 of us have an involvement in this. and
Why
could
do
present a
3 of
conflict.
you have an involvement in it?
Well, because
The only
part-
one would be Jack, I would think.
Part of the issue of this report deals with town employees serving as selectmen.
Oh, yeah.
That involves Ms. Hewens and myself.
Recommendation, yeah, the recommendation of the DOR said that, right. But that's not necessarily the recommendation of the committee.
I didn't ask them what their recommendation was.
Yep, no.
What I'm talking about is the dysfunctionality of the committee and the controversy that's emanating from that. And the fact that I believe that the whole process has been compromised, and we need to get people in there that don't have an agenda and are ready to move forward with things. So, any other
For you,
questions?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
My concern about receiving the letter from this particular member is, I believe, and I've only gone to a few of those meetings, but I believe he is the only I believe he's the only resident and business owner that doesn't have any affiliation to the town. So,
I'm sorry, Helen, that's not true. The young lady who serves on their committee.
there's two.
Mrs. Eby.
CEB.
okay,
Yeah.
so there's two.
Yeah, there's two.
Thank you. But the bottom line is I take residents' feedback seriously, because they are, I don't see what gain this person has in sending a letter to, well, he sent it to me, I don't even know who else he may have sent the letter to. So it's just a concern.
I appreciate your concerns, but again, I was trying to chair this committee as a professional. And we're charged as a committee, all the 6 members of the committee, to address the DOR review and then come to the Board of Selectmen with a report. This incident occurred unbeknownst and accidentally to me. I got an email from the town clerk's office, and I sent a letter out or an email out to all the committee members to make sure that they had been sworn in. And before we could meet and address these issues, that certain committee member decided to take matters in his own hands because he felt his reputation was in jeopardy. And it was an issue that could probably have been resolved or worked out to everybody's satisfaction if he had worked or he had come to the committee and voiced his issues with what was going on, but he did not. He took it upon himself to take matters into his own hand. And to me, as a professional working in a regional school district, which is a political entity unto itself, if I did that at my job at Old Colony, I'd be called up on a carpet. We're supposed to be working as a team, as a committee, to try to follow through on the recommendations of the DOR review. And apparently this committee member felt that he should take matters into his own hands. I wouldn't mind if he came and we discussed the issues, and if he had still had a problem with that, then he could voice his concern and then take matters into his own hands. But to sit there and do what he did, I just take exception at it. And that, I believe, destroyed the purpose of the audit committee.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair?
Yes, ma'am.
One last comment from Helen. To me, what the member has to say is secondary to the point that for a town to run effectively, in my opinion, you need to follow the rules. And you obviously went through town council and it said that it's not mandatory. However, when I was serving on the finance committee, I remember that it was extremely important for me to be sworn in before I could even take a vote. And I've seen witness to new committee members where they can't take a vote because they hadn't been sworn in yet. I believe that if we don't disband and reorganize this group, that we're gonna set a precedent in this town that anything's okay. And so.
Ma'am, I don't have a problem with that. The only problem I have is that I feel as though that I'm being slandered as a dysfunctional chairman, and I take exception to the comments by Chairman O'Donnell. And I'll go on record for that.
I take exception to your comments in your emails. Okay? Yes, Mr. Frame?
You know, what's disturbing to me is town council's opinion on this, that they trivialize the appointment process of a public official getting sworn in validates your obligation to serve in public office. I serve on the Plymouth County Charter Review Committee, and before I could even participate, the chairman made sure that I was sworn in. There's 19 members. He makes sure that everyone has filed their ethics reports every year and that they file the Office of Campaign Finance reports every year. And that's the obligation of a chairman, and he does an excellent job.
Dick?
I think in the past, I know I've heard of ad hoc committees and things, and I think this past year with this open meeting law, it has clarified and put things into stone that we really didn't look at as official functions in the past. And so I think over this past year, I've come to the point where I've realized that, like we're gonna have a discussion later on minutes and what committee's responsibility on minutes are. And I know, I'm not trying to change the course of our discussion. I'm just using that as an example, that we had committees. I know I've been on the AgCom for 5 years, and we have our minutes available. Our secretary has them in a notebook, all printed, but we don't always hand them in. I don't think to the town clerk, or they haven't been over the past, at times. And so now we know with this open meeting law, the importance that everybody puts on all the parts of that we can't miss crossing all the Ts and dotting all the Is. And maybe this is a case of that. I know I thought originally that this was like an ad hoc committee, just coming back with recommendations to us on the Board of Selectmen. So I think right now we need to address the parts of this committee that we can't have serving on that committee. If we can't have somebody from the Finance Committee, and we can't have somebody from Capital Outlay, we can still have citizens at large. We can still have a selectman or a selectman's representative. We can, what were the other members that we had on the committee? We had somebody representing the financial expertise. So if we're not allowed FinCom and we're not allowed Capital Outlay, who would represent town government on that side of it, the financial expertise? I know I supported Mr. Kaiser because he has financial expertise, and that is his work. And so he is well-versed in accounting and the processes. That's why I thought he's a valuable person on that committee. So where do we go for, to continue this?
Mr. McDonald?
I mean, we're requested, we're requested by the Department of Revenue, and suggested that we have an audit committee, and it was gonna be, I think, beyond just the results of this. It was gonna be a committee that stayed in place and did constant evaluation of where our town is going in terms of our financial departments.
All set, Dick?
I'm done.
Okay, go ahead, Bruce.
The concerned member of the committee that decided to take matters in his own hand, he requested a reading from town council. That wasn't anything that I did on my part.
Okay. I think, to me, I think what we need to do is we need to start with a clean slate. We need to identify who and who can't serve on the committee, like Dick said, and then start soliciting for membership from people that are eligible to participate in this. That's my opinion, but I serve at the pleasure of the board, so does anybody have anything else?
If I may, Mr. Chair, I'm actually going to recuse myself from this vote for reasons of my own. Thank you.
What's the pleasure of the board?
I think we should make a motion to disband the group and to reform it. And I really think that we should open it up to the residents right now and to any other town employees that can, based on our bylaws, serve on this committee.
I guess somebody has to second it for discussion purposes, right?
Yep.
So I will do that. And then, where was I going? I don't want the people that have served on this committee to feel like we're making this motion and we're disbanding the committee. We're disbanding the committee because we didn't meet the requirements of the law when we formed the committee.
Correct.
Absolutely.
It's not
I
a,
don't
it's
want
not a reflection.
I don't want people like Bruce and this young lady who's the
Teresa,
accountant,
Right.
and people like that to feel like we are rejecting them.
I absolutely
I don't
agree
want
with
that.
that, and they could absolutely
Reapply?
and be part of it, and we would take a lot of the information that they had already provided. But again, I go back to, town hall has to run effectively, and I just
fine.
don't believe that we can take one committee and not follow the proper procedure, so.
I did serve at the leisure of the Board of Selectmen.
I didn't hear you, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I did serve at the leisure of the Board of Selectmen.
Yes.
The leisure? There's no leisure in this job. Are you kidding me? All right,
No.
so we have a motion and a second. It's open for discussion. Jack?
If we could, I'd like to be able to receive all the minutes and any materials that were discussed. I'd hate to see that with a
Exactly.
reconstituted board, I don't want to see all the work that this committee did be wasted.
I agree.
So if we could get all of that stuff and put it together with the reconstituted committee, maybe they can take up some of that action, revote it, rediscuss it.
Exactly, and that's what, definitely don't want to take all of the work that has happened and let it go in vain. It would be part of the new committee.
And again, I think there's members on that committee that should be reapplying to serve on
Absolutely.
the new committee.
I was going to agree with that.
Valuable, worthwhile
Absolutely.
input,
Right.
so. All right, we got a motion and a second. What was the motion again? Can we read that back?
To disband the existing committee based on what we have been discussing and reform a new committee and seek people to apply.
Okay.
Is that proper wording?
Having that motion and a second, all those in favor, please say aye.
I guess I say aye.
What's Helen say?
She made the
Why are
motion.
you waiting?
I abstain. I abstained the last time when you appointed the committee.
Okay. Check that.
You got two positives right here, so I guess that's a go. All right, that's what we're gonna do, Bruce. We're gonna reconstitute the committee. Thank you. All right,
So
next
through
up
you,
on the agenda.
Mr. Chair, may I ask a question regarding what's the next step in terms of seeking, talking to the existing committee about what's happening and putting out information to the residents to seek volunteers to serve, especially with financial
Why
background?
don't we put it on the agenda and discuss it next meeting, and we can kind of
That's a
pull
good
the
idea.
information together, just what we want the criteria to be for people to serve on the committee.
That's probably what we have to do anyway, isn't it, in regards, I mean, all we had here was a audit committee update and chairman and possible vote. We've done that, so now we need an agenda item to discuss it.
Yeah.
Maybe Rick can pull the bylaws. There seems to be some confusion on the FinCom. I could not find anything on the FinCom bylaws that specified that they could not serve on other committees.
Yeah, there's a bizarre part of our bylaws, which for whatever reason, this Finance Committee and Council on Aging can't serve on.
Okay.
It's.
Can you break those out, Rick, and then maybe we can take a look at
Yes,
them
I
and
can
just,
do that.
I know that the capital outlay does have one, somebody sent that to me. But if you can break out the other two, then we understand the parameters a little bit better.
Sure.
And we could put them on the agenda for next week.
And I think the other question becomes, looking at the bylaws, and I don't have an answer, is again, what the parameters on that are in terms of, like I say, an ad hoc committee versus a standing committee, versus a commission, or, you know, I don't think there's any verbiage in the bylaws that differentiates, which leaves some interpretation, which I don't want to make. That'll be your job to make.
Well, I think we ought to err on the side that, you know, the law says this, and we do that for every other committee. We can't deviate for one committee or a certain group. I think we should follow to its specificity. And it's just like the open meeting law, right? That would,
I think the open meeting law says that that's what we have to do.
yeah.
So I say, okay, let's do it that way.
Moving on. Items for discussion and possible vote, special town meeting, set the date, and warrant article deadline.
May I ask a question,
Absolutely.
Mr. Chairman? Did we have any, I didn't see anything in my packet on this.
I
So
would
I have
ask,
no idea what we are talking,
Right.
what
Maybe
we
if-
need one for.
Gene McGillicuddy might be able to
Is
participate.
Gene
in-
still here?
Just to,
You want to come up and enlighten us on what we need to do?
the issue that was raised at our last meeting by John Adams was what subsidy might be required to the North Carver Water District, and that's important because the budget has to be balanced in order for us to set a tax rate. So there's going to be some need prior to the next calendar year for us to have a balanced North Carver Water District budget. So in order to do that, we have to have some movement at town meeting in order to make that happen. So the issue then becomes, well, what's the appropriate time frame for a special town meeting? How quickly can we have one, and how narrowly defined do you want the issues to be for the special town meeting? So, and I know Gene has had some
Mr. Chairman?
discussion with Jack about timetable.
Yeah.
Can you repeat that last
Well,
sentence?
I said, I know Gene and Jack and Gene Bouchard have had some discussion about timetable as to when this can happen
Okay.
with
I'm
regard to.
actually the one that put it on the agenda, because I happened to pick it up in an email from John Adams that we, before we could set the tax rate, we had to have the situation in the North Carver Water District
Resolved.
cleared up, so, I mean, I wish it had happened sooner rather than later, because this really puts the crunch on getting the tax bills out and getting this approved, so. I spoke to Gene, and the first date that we looked at would have really made it that Gene has to have a date when, maybe you can explain it, Gene.
Okay.
Well done.
I'm glad you did that, Jack. I invited her up here 5 minutes ago to do that. Thank you.
Well, I didn't want to put her on the spot.
Everybody
for
wants to
what
get
I
home
had
and
to
watch
say.
the debate, and you're tying us up here.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Gene.
Okay, the thing is that when you set the special town meeting, 10 days before that is the last day to register to vote for that meeting. And that vote runs from 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. So that determines on really when you want to have it, because if you hold it in December, the beginning of December, that last day to register to vote is going to come the day after Thanksgiving, when this
The
building
town
is
hall is
closed.
closed.
So it's a little difficult to get somebody here too, because a lot of people have gone away, you know, the Thanksgiving holiday. So they're kind of losing that opportunity to vote at that point in time. So that's why we got into talking maybe November 29, because it would take the last day to register to vote the last week of October. Am I right?
Yes, week of November.
November,
But 10 days before.
10 days before
We
that,
looked at
yeah.
two dates, November 29th and December 6th.
Yeah. You'd have to stay away from December 3, because that's the one that's gonna put us the day after Thanksgiving, and a lot of people would be away.
That's my birthday, I'll be 35.
Happy birthday.
How does December 6th work?
December 6th would work, because it would give you the last day to vote. Let me just check my calendar here. So it would be Monday, November 26th would be the last day to register to vote. That would work out a lot better than December 3.
Okay.
And if you do November 29th, it keeps you away from the holiday and all.
My only question to Jack would be, in terms of, I know there would seem to be enough time to make
It
sure
would
the
be,
tax bill's
yeah.
out.
It would be
okay.
tight, but we'd be able to do
Okay.
it.
Do you have any issues with that?
I don't. Can you
Gene?
conceive of anything with that December 6th? Shouldn't be an issue for us.
It shouldn't be an issue for us. I was just thinking about the residents. Everyone seems to be December things.
Christmas.
Christmas. I gotta get ready for Christmas. Are we gonna get the turnout at town meeting?
Yeah.
That's my only concern with the
Well,
December.
you do have to worry about that quorum.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair?
We'll have
If
a
I
raffle.
could, I just wanted to ask Eugene, if the town meeting date was November 29th, what would be the last day to register to vote?
Hold on, November 29th. So that's- That would be the 19th of November.
19th of November. And that's,
Which is a
And
Monday.
that
that's
is,
the Monday before Thanksgiving?
yes.
Yeah, so I'm thinking that one might work best. It avoids all the holidays, you know, and the crunch time and.
I won't be here November 29th. Unfortunately, I'll be away,
Oh,
so that's part of my consideration.
How many days do we need to have for a final deadline on articles?
Well, there's the only requirement is that the meeting be posted 14 days in advance. So
14 days.
realistically, you would want to have a meeting
I'd want to make
between
it
the
short
closing date
because
and that date, Dick. So if you
Well,
would.
you want to keep it at a minimum. You don't want to have a long special town meeting. This thing here, we could get in, the money's pretty much available. It's sitting in that short-term interest account.
You want to.
We
I agree.
can
You want to keep it
spend
short.
that money right out of there, and you need to have a town meeting to do that. So,
And in fairness, we've never had a quorum. I've been here 16 years. We've never had a quorum problem at any time whenever we've had a meeting. So I don't say that, Helen. Okay. I know there's always a first, but
especially in the first week in,
Well, I think we ought to lure everybody out with cookies and
Yeah.
presents or something. Anyways, put a holiday
community
theme on it.
event.
Well, you really need to think about this because you definitely want a quorum. We have to get a
the only
quorum.
other, the only other thing might be that you have some unpaid bills, Rick,
yeah,
I have unpaid
mop up.
which
mop
you
up
must have
stuff.
an idea.
But if you set the deadline for the 29th, I'm sorry.
Sounds like we got some conflicts for the 29th.
Well, again, you need 14 days to post it, so.
Right, so if you had the 31st.
And what is it, December 6th?
Article deadline.
That's your next one.
That's the one we were looking at. Then we backed up to 11/29, but that's,
No,
that's tight.
that's true. You could, at your meeting on November 14th, finalize the actual warrant itself. We could post it on the 15th. That would give you your 14 days.
For what? November what?
Yeah, if your closing date was, say, the end of the month for any warrant articles,
Yeah.
and the Board of Selectmen on your regular meeting on November 14th, if you, that night, accepted the final warrant, then it could be posted on the 15th, which would give you the 14 days you need to the
29th?
date of the 29th, without disrupting anything else, having special meetings.
But we got conflicts too.
All right, why don't we get
Well,
a vote on the meeting date then,
Good point.
first? Then we'll
I
vote
make a
on the-
motion, we have the meeting date on December 6th.
If that's what you want.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Say aye.
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 It's unanimous. Meeting's on the 6th. All right, now let's tackle the
Right.
articles.
I would suggest that you still make make it the end of the month the deadline for any articles. I don't see any
End of
reason.
this month, Rick?
Yeah, I mean,
Wednesday,
it builds a
October
little more
31st.
time in administratively, but this, considering it's a special town meeting, it's not meant to handle any huge weighty issues.
Do you want it so that we have the articles next week for our next meeting?
Well, I was considering that you could still probably vote to finalize the warrant on the 14th of November still. That shouldn't, it
But
shouldn't.
you'd have the deadline before then.
31st.
Right, if you had the
First,
October
okay.
31st deadline, then you could
It's
have the
Wednesday,
warrant
October
prepared for your review
Okay.
and finalized on the 14th. And that would give us, that should give us plenty of time. A little more breathing room than the 29th, but
I'm open to a motion from the board, whatever their pleasure is.
Make that motion.
We have a motion for October 31 deadline.
I'll second it for discussion purposes.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. It is now open for discussion. Anybody have anything? Don't run away, Jane.
Pardon me?
Don't run away.
I'm not.
No, she's all set, aren't you?
I am, but I'll wait.
Oh, okay.
Jack, did you have something for discussion?
I just want to try and keep the period short, but it seems where it's all the way till the end of
Well-
the month, so.
I think it behooves us, because of the holiday and everything else, that we just need to conduct the bare minimum business and get in and get out of there, so we don't tie people up.
no argument here.
Jane, you have anything else?
Nope. Thank you for setting the date. I like the heads up.
Thank you for all the hard work you put into it, and we appreciate it, yours and your assistance.
Thank you very much.
All right, well,
Can I ask one question? How much is a special town meeting gonna cost us?
It runs us about maybe $300 or $400, maybe less, a little less than that. Maybe 300 or so. Not even. I shouldn't even say that high. It just runs us the staff. It depends on how long the meeting is. So not even $300. Maybe 100, 150. Just paying the staff.
Just vote on it.
thanks,
We
Jane.
don't have to pay the moderator overtime?
You're good.
Sally.
Thank you.
He's just babbling now. Okay, get that out of the way. Next on the list is the United Nations Proclamation. Somebody want to speak to this, or?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
we didn't vote for the deadline, did we?
Didn't we, October 31st? We had a motion and a
Voted-
second?
I think you
We
voted the
opened
whole
it for
package.
discussion.
Yeah, he didn't have a vote.
All in
He just
favor?
had discussion.
Okay.
Aye.
Helen, you with us?
I am.
Aye?
Aye.
Sarah, all in favor? Okay. I'm trying to get everybody home for the debate. I know that everybody's dying to watch that. I'm sorry.
It's working.
Next up is United Nations Proclamation, and is there somebody that would like to speak to this item?
This is, they ask us every year, they send us something every year. For the last 10 years that I've been doing it, this has been, they ask us
What does it involve, Gene, do you know?
they send us a sample proclamation and ask the town.
Does it commit us to anything, or?
No.
I'm sorry? No,
commit us-
nothing at all. All it is, once it's done, it just goes on the bulletin board.
Who is they?
The United Nations.
It's the United Nations.
Through you, Mr. Chair?
Yes, ma'am.
I have a serious concern about this, and I really hope we can have a discussion on it. As soon as I saw on the agenda, I saw United Nations Proclamation as a new Board of Selectmen. Of course, I immediately called the office to see what it was about. And basically, what Jean said, it's kind of like a rubber stamp that we've been doing it for the past several years. As a resident of Carver and as a U.S. citizen, I do not think that we should be supporting a UN initiative here in the town of Carver. I don't think I need to get into my concerns about the UN in general, because I will tell you, when I was a little girl, I looked up to the UN, and it just gave me the happy chills when I went to the UN and saw all the flags. But unfortunately, over the years, as I've become more educated and knowledgeable about the UN, I think we, as the United States citizens and residents of Carver, need to be more intuitive in reading about what the UN is standing for. And without getting into my personal feelings on it, I do not think the town of Carver should be supporting this UN proclamation. And I think we should stop signing this United Nations proclamation.
All right, do we have any other comments?
Yes,
Sarah?
if I may,
Yep.
what is it in particular that you don't like about the United Nations?
Well, that's why, okay, I'll bullet it very quickly. I believe the UN at this juncture in the UN history is trying to take away our sovereignty, and it's becoming to make rules very globally. One of the big concerns, and it's been becoming more and more popular, Sarah, is the Agenda 21 that stems from the UN. And the Agenda 21, I'm still learning about it, but it's, on the surface, it's a wonderful concept. You know, environmental, you know, clean air across the world. However, when you get down to the nitty-gritty of it, it's putting rules into our local governments. For example, ICLEI was part of it that has hit the local levels. And again, I don't want to start talking about Agenda 21, but these are my concerns, is that we have to stay the United States of America.
Interesting.
Okay? It says, whereas the United Nations of Greater Boston is committed to educating and mobilizing our local communities to build a stronger network of global citizens. That's my concern, is that it's the global. And just coincidentally, 2 days ago, I read in one of the magazines that I read that came through online, Sarah, and it was saying how the UN is now talking about imposing an international tax on the internet. It hasn't happened yet, but what I'm getting at is I don't think we should be so quick to be supporting the UN on the local level. I think we should leave it to where it is right now and leave Carver out of it. So that's my opinion.
Well, I appreciate that. I'd be interested to know what magazine you were looking at, but it's a
I
interesting
believe it
discussion.
was online. I believe it was WorldNet Daily, which is an online news source that brings all of the news publications from around the world together. So that's where I saw it.
Well, if I may, just a little sidebar, we are in a global economy. It is a global world out there. What can I say?
Other comments? Dick?
I've always felt like the UN is something that we, the United States, pushed for to try to solve some of the problems of the world, and I support it wholeheartedly. And not that they're going to be doing everything right, but I mean, worldwide peace is so important that if we don't have the United Nations or an organization like that working towards that, where are we going to be? I don't know. So I would support us in our town supporting this proclamation.
I know it's a money pit, drain on the U.S. economy. I'm not sure what the return is. Jack, anything to contribute?
It just, you know, it has that feel-good appearance to it, but it's kind of vague, because I don't know what Millennium Development Goals are. It said here, 8 of 10 voters say it is important that the United States maintain an active role. I think I'm pretty active in the community. People recognize me for that, and I've never been contacted by any of these people to give my opinion, so. Is it 8 of 10 voters in the United States, or 8 of 10 voters in the whole world? You know, the vagueness concerns me.
Anything else from the board?
Yes, if I may, I find it curious that for the past 10 years, this board has had many of the same people on it, and they've never had any concerns about this. I just find it very interesting.
I think as time goes on, people become more aware, more educated, and, you know, they develop their opinions and
5 years ago, I would never have known what an Agenda 21 is. 5 years ago, I would never have known the UN to be supporting the Iranian president. 5 years ago, I wouldn't have known what ICLEI was. A lot of this I've learned from being involved with the town, but a lot of it is because I love my country, and I started, as I said when I campaigned, I started by my interest and knowledge of the national government, and I saw how it was trickling down, Sarah, to the local government, and that's why people are becoming more aware, and I hope everybody's open-minded and gets educated on these things. But right now, as your representative, I cannot support a UN proclamation here in the town of Carver.
And Helen, just for the record, I love my government and my country as well.
I never said otherwise.
Mike?
Yes, Jack.
So maybe it's never been challenged before, but we have people that are gonna read things and try and understand what's going on. Look what we did with the open space report for years before that. It was just signed and sent away, but we all read it and we made some changes that I think were positive for the town. So that could be the turning point for the town. That we're gonna read these documents and we're gonna ask questions.
All right, I think everybody's had a say in this. It's time to move on. Do I have a motion?
I move we adopt this proclamation for
And
the
I
United
second that
Nations
motion.
Day.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All those opposed, please say opposed.
Opposed.
The motion fails. Moving on, discussion and possible vote on Mann O'Donnell projects. And do we have Mr. Mann and Mrs. O'Donnell in the audience? And Mr. Hunter?
I'm going
Jack, still awake?
I'm going to go down and get Mr. Hunter. He's at another meeting, so.
What if we take a 5-minute recess here?
Yeah,
Or you
sounds
could
good
handle
to me.
some quick action items while I'm gone.
We could do that
Whatever
too.
you prefer, Mr. Chairman.
You want to take a 5-minute break?
Let's take a break.
All right, I have a motion and a second to take a 5-minute break. All those in favor? Aye, 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 aye.
Aye, aye, aye. Want to go home.
All right, everybody still awake, please take their seat.
Did you meet? Put up with that treatment.
Hi, Jack.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. We're moving on to a discussion and possible vote on the Mann O'Donnell projects, one being a solar project, the other one being a windmill project. So, and here to moderate is Mr. Jack Hunter, Director of Economic Planning and Development.
I'm not.
Jack, would you like to give the introductions and walk us through this, please?
I just met him. I have Tom Converse here who's representing Future Generation Wind, which is Keith Mann. Keith could not make it today, he's in another community, and Mary O'Donnell. I just thought what I'd like to do is just kind of give you a little explanation on how we got to where we are. Then I'd ask them both, and I met with them both yesterday and today, to give you brief explanation of their proposal. And then I'll walk you through briefly again the memo that I know you have from the consultant that kind of analyzing the two proposals. And then maybe talk about a recommendation if that's appropriate. Very coincidentally, we were approached by both Future Generation Wind and No Fossil Fuel to see if we would be interested as a town to purchasing net metering credits at, I must say, very, very attractive rates. We've been down this road many times, it seems, but these are two of the most attractive rates I've ever seen. After talking to Mike, the chair, and I know Mike's met them both, we needed some help because this is complicated stuff. You would be committing for 20 years your electricity, so to speak, on how you buy it and locking it up, if you will. So it's complicated, and we wanted to make sure that these projects are real, that they have financing, that what they're saying they are going to do for you, they can do, and what they're saying when they're gonna do it, they can do it. So, both proponents agreed to, put up $2,500 each. And, what my task and Mike's request was to find someone, a neutral party, to analyze them. And how I did that is I asked both proponents to give me suggested names. I also asked some of my sources some suggested names. I passed them on to both, and we narrowed the list down to people that they both agreed upon. Sounded good to me, except that when I started calling everybody, and we're not talking a lot, maybe 6 people, it turned out that either the project wasn't big enough, they were too busy, or they were in conflict. They had done something for one of them, or the town. But one of them, I could probably tell you if I looked it up, one of the consultants knew someone who may be interested, and it was Mystic River Renewable Energy Consulting out of Mystic River, Connecticut. So I passed the bio, I called them, they were interested, they gave me a bio, I passed it by both applicants and Mike. Everybody was in agreement, they thought this was the right person, and lo and behold, we hired them. So that's how we got to where we are, and that's the memo that's in front of you. And I'd just like them to make some brief presentation, and then I'll walk you through the memo and really just what the bottom line is.
Before we get into it, Jack, I just want to ask my colleagues if they've all had an opportunity to read the Mystic River Energy Group proposal.
I have,
Okay.
yeah.
You haven't, Jack?
Mhm.
Okay. All right, thank you. That way we're all on the same sheet of music, and maybe it'll eliminate some of the
Yep.
uncertainties.
Ladies first.
Good evening, Mrs. O'Donnell.
Good evening to all of you.
By the way, I want a disclaimer that there is no relation. She's actually Mrs. Carter O'Donnell, okay?
Carver, yes. But then also another revelation is that your birthday happens to be one day after mine, Mr. O'Donnell.
I'm older than...
Frightening.
One
Oh,
day
I
after?
didn't say the day, the year, I just said that December 6th.
I'm younger than you?
Quite. Anyway.
Then they are related.
I am not, I've sent our proposal via the internet because I'm not big on printing paper, being a recyclable, renewable, sustainable kind of girl, so.
We printed it anyway.
And I see all the papers here. Is it not on?
No, I think it would actually help if you took it out of the holder and held it,
Okay,
because the people at home won't be able to hear.
okay.
It's temperamental, Mary.
Oh, fine. And I'm hell-bent about being at least in my car by 9 o'clock, so I'm going to make this real speedy. We have 2 proposals. One is a 6-megawatt solar farm in Dartmouth. One's a 4-megawatt in Marshfield, all permitted, all ready to go. We are working very diligently. We have all, hopefully tonight, this votes, and no fossil fuel is the winner. And we will be under construction in the next 30 days. So the bottom line is, and that's what I think we're here for, is that we pay more money and faster. And if I were sitting in your shoes, that's all I'd want to know, more money faster. And we've sent to you a typical PPA, a power purchase agreement, that we'd be looking to sign. And I want to offer you our attorney's time to work with your town council to review that, to go over that, whatever the town needs is fine. And the other thing that I am offering is, should the town in the future be interested in doing any solar of their own, I would like to donate. This is much more difficult than it looks. And I've been at it now 3 years, and I have to say that I'm now pretty much a solar expert, and I know how to save the town a lot of money and a lot of time and a lot of aggravation should you ever choose to put solar on your rooftops or to do any kind of other solar. I'd be very happy to volunteer. If we're in business together, we're in business together for a long time. I'm an old woman, but I sure hope I'm around to 20 years to see this end. And if I can be of any service to Carver, after all, my name is really Mary Carver, I would like to donate those to you. Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to explain one thing to our audience at home, that neither of these projects are going to be located in Carver. They are outside Carver. We're going to buy the credits from them and reap some of the benefits of a long-term purchase agreement from whatever project we decide to go with. But they will not be on Carver's landscape geography.
I'd like to thank you. My name's Tom Converse. I'm representing Man Farms. And I'd like to thank the selectmen for offering the time here, and I'd like to thank Jack for offering us this opportunity to address you on behalf of Future Gen Wind. Our understanding is you have a lot of information that's occurred with, that Jack has gone through. I think Mystic Energy did a pretty good job of explaining the issues, laying the framework, and talking about net metering, the decisions and the factors that you should consider. So really what we were asked to do is to really just tell you a little bit about Future Gen and our project team, and you know, what we have to offer. And also for the folks in the audience, I did leave what I handed out to the selectmen over there, some copies, and my card is there if we run out. If you're interested, you can have that. Man Farms, as some of you know, is a grower owner of Ocean Spray Incorporated. Keith is a fourth generation cranberry farmer inventor, and he is committed to wind and the financial carry-through of the development. He's put a lot of his own personal money into this to get it to where it is. The project team includes Clear Planet Energy, which is has been development of 900 megawatts of spinning generation wind. Source One, which is part of Viola Environment out of Boston, which is pretty well known in this part, New York and Boston, for interconnection power marketing, who I work under. Consulting Engineers, who's probably done more interconnection applications and designs than anyone I know for solar and for wind. Atlantic Design Engineers, who did a lot of our permitting and engineering. V-Bar, who did our wind analysis, and Clavin Law Group. So a very, very solid team that I'm proud to be part of, very fluent in the process. For you who don't have the slides, there's a picture of pretty much where the wind turbines are. And for folks who are tourists, they'd know it because it's either right before the rest area if you've driven far on 25, or as you're driving by a cranberry bog and you see a boat there and you wonder how it got there. The wind turbines are planned to be on both sides of Route 25. There's 4 turbines of 8 megawatts. Excellent class machines. We're offering an 11-cent flat fee. The RECs can be bundled. And I think Mystic River did a good job of analyzing them. This quick project timeline is we think we'll be commissioning in COD by 2013. Our permitting is complete. Where interconnection is, we're in some final negotiations with NSTAR, but we're confident that can be done through the end of the year. And just, the information is in here, so I don't want to belabor it let you get out of here and do what you want to do for the debate. But we have 100% of the municipal loads in Marion sold, 100% of Rochester and the old Rochester Regional School District. And again, there's information on here on Keith Mann contact. My contact is there. And there's actually some other stuff in here on how the net metering credits work and some other things. So again, thank you for your time, and we appreciate this opportunity.
Thank you, Tom. And I want to thank both of you for the way this was conducted. For both of you to pitch in, pay for the consultant's report. That means a lot to the town of Carver, because it didn't cost us anything to do this, so we appreciate that very much, the professionalism involved. What I'd like to do now is I'd like to open it up to the board and see if any of the members have some questions that they would like to ask. If I can wake them up.
Could I go, Mike, I wanted to go through the report. You want to ask questions of them first?
Well, yeah, if you have any preliminary questions, they can just ask them one or two, and then we can go through the report. Sarah?
I was going to, but I'd like to hear Jack's first,
Okay.
if that's all right. That way,
Everybody else agree with that?
that way I'm not repeating
Have at it.
questions.
Gee, I got 15 minutes. No. Mike hit it right on the head. They're both very, very professional, and very good projects, solid team behind them. That's what I got out of this report. And I've known Mary, and I know Keith a little bit, but I know Mary a little longer. I want to highlight page 2, the second to last sentence that Mr. Nickerson says. There is certainly an advantage under this program, and he's talking about the federal energy credits for municipalities to take action early. And I'll get to that a little bit. If you look on page 3, it kind of outlines in the table about what they just told you. Mary's project is a little is ready to be on, is hopefully going to be online early 2013, where Keith's is late 2013. However, output already sold, Mary has none, though I know she's in negotiations with a lot of towns, and Keith has 3. 44% of 4 turbines and 76% of 2, and I'll get to that a little bit later. I'm hurrying. The next thing on page 6 on the table is this whole notion about how much capacity this town really has, and I've learned a lot from Mr. Nickerson and others over the last couple weeks. We had been running on the notion that we had 4.5 megawatts of capacity, and it's just not true. That's what I have always been told by the school department. They negotiate for the town for all your energy consumption and deals, if you will, from power companies. And you really have about 3.9 of what they call growth. You got about 3 million megawatts now of load, but then there's this notion of gross up. And what gross up, I've learned, is, you know how you get your electricity bill and there's electricity and then there's all those charges? That gross up is that charge, which net metering credits can take advantage of. And that's the gross up. So that's the easiest way I can explain it. So you've got 3.9 million capacity of gross up. You've already committed to Intero. This says 1.6. I don't think that, I thought that was less than that. But if you look at it, you've got about 2.3 million kilowatts of gross up that you could purchase and still not. The one thing you don't ever want to do is purchase more net metering credits than you can use, because then you're wasting money.
I'm sorry, did you say 2.3?
Yes.
But the report says 1.4.
That's for actual load. I'm talking about the gross up. That's to cover all your expenses. So then, I got this tab so I can hurry up. We don't need to go that. And then I'll go to the summary chart on page 11. The interconnection agreement. Interconnection agreement is where you go to NSTAR in our community and say, here's what I want to do. What improvements do I need to make in your system to allow me to attach myself to it? And there is only so many proposals they can take. These guys are both in queue, so they're in. And then there's infrastructure improvements most likely that they'd have to make. As you can see, Mary's she's received it and she's ready to sign. Future Wind is not received their final, what they call IA, but they're expecting it in December. Local issues, big deal. Mary's Dartmouth project's under appeal, but her Marshfield project's clean. Keith's wind project, 3 out of the 4 are clean, 1's under appeal. So they both are ready to go as far as appeals. There's enough capacity. And then fully cell output, and they both need to do that. Mary seems to need to do more than Keith, but that's where they're at. So, you know, you have 2 projects. Mary has not sold any of her capacity yet. Keith has sold half, maybe more. Keith's is later in the game, Mary's earlier, if she sells her output, and that's a big if. As much as I love Mary, it's a big if. So that's kind of in your decision making. Mary's is 10 cents flat rate for 20 years. Keith's is 11 cents flat rate for 20 years. So there's some of the decision making. Then I'm going to go to page 12. Well, it's the second real paragraph after the last bullets. Either project is a reasonable choice for the town of Carver. There is no clear, obvious choice or winner between the two projects. Here are some of the differences to consider. No fossil fuel offers a potential earlier operation date and possible greater expected savings. As discussed, there are important uncertainties associated with either project in terms of actual energy output and varying net metering credit rates that make it difficult to accurately predict state conclusively that one project offers more savings. Future wind is about a year out, further out, and has additional project milestones to complete, but has a strong team and has demonstrated ability to successfully address issues and move forward. So, you know, I think that's what you face. I think one of the concerns I would have is if you decided to go with Mary and she doesn't sell the rest of her output, then you have a contract that means nothing because Mary can't build anything. And if you wait too long and Mary can't build anything, you may lose Keith. If you signed with Keith, I think he'll probably build one turbine and you're in, but you might lose the opportunity to save that 1 penny, which is a lot. So these are the kind of things that I think you have to weigh. What Mr. Nickerson's recommending is that if you went with Mary, that you certainly hold her to the fire about completing, having signed contracts to full capacity, ready to build by a certain date, solid date. I have talked to Keith that if you decided to do that, he'd be willing to sign a memorandum of agreement with you that if she fell through, he would negotiate in good faith if he still had capacity. So you got some choices here. They're both strong. Mary can maybe talk to you a little bit about her selling her power, but if she doesn't sell it by X date, it's kind of, you got the bird in the hand here, but you may lose this one if you get too long into this one and it doesn't happen. So that's kind of what you're facing. Oh yeah, the net metering cap, NSTAR allows 3%. The cap is at 149 megawatts. They have 31 megawatts online, and there's 85 megawatts in queue. Yeah, so they're pretty much, there's not going to be many more projects, at least unless the legislature opens that cap, which they have once.
Yeah.
So that's another thing to consider, that these may be the only two you're going to see. I don't know. Who knows?
Would either one of the project managers like to add anything to Jack's remarks?
I just want to say, if you vote for no fossil fuel in this one, you're already 50% of the first project that we're going to build. So that's halfway home. And I have had a meeting before I came here, and the third person wasn't there who they wanted to vote for, but they thanked me profusely because they really want it. And it's a long story, I won't go into it, but I am sure within the week I will have everything all done and signed. But as I said to Jack, I wouldn't mind if you want to put a really short time on me that I have to be under construction by even 3 months out, that if I'm not able to do it, that if you feel free to give it to somebody else, because that's how confident I am that we're ready to go. And one thing that wasn't mentioned is that you get net metering credits for a whole year in advance, because I'm a full year ahead of the story. So that is a lot. You add that in the penny, and it's a lot. So.
Because of the delay in Keith's project, it takes much longer to construct a windmill than it does solar panels. One other thing, Mike, and this is my suggestion, I think Mr. Nickerson implies it. If you're gonna go down either of these roads, I would absolutely not wanna see you sign up for more than 2 megawatts, because then you're entering danger zone. You'd only leave you 0.4 megawatts. And I think conservation is an issue, and who knows what happens down the road issues. But that's just me.
I would like to speak, is that okay if I speak to that as well? 0.4 megawatts is almost a half a megawatt, and it's something that, why would you just throw away? Because as I was, during the break, I was speaking with Sarah about it. Even if you want to get, if all the towns, everyone's trying to conserve, we can conserve all we want. Our demand keeps on growing, and our populations grow. We're all about to go into a really big phase of electric cars. And we have more computers and more software and more this and more that. Our demand for electricity, the key issue is, how are we going to supply it? Are we going to supply it by green, sustainable, renewable, or we're going to do dirty fossil fuels? That's the only question. So, but the fact that are you going to burn less electricity at the end of the year going forward? And the answer is a strong, renowned no. Will you have an opportunity to, at some point as you grow, to use this yourself or to get more net metering credits? It's very risky, because they did expend the cap once. There's no guarantees. I wouldn't want to see the town waiting for the legislation. My vote would be, use every nickel of what you have. As a matter of fact, I would try to leave it that if you don't have any capacity, that you still have the soft costs that he's talking about. So I would be looking, if I were the town, completely the opposite. Plus, it's a bird in the hand. You want to make money now. And to save for the future for what? This is your future. Your future is clean, sustainable energy that you're all a part of, and it really makes a lot of sense. So, plus 0.4, as I was explaining, you don't need for the people that live in town, the real mums and pops, they can add on all they want. That does not count into the net metering. So that you don't have to save part of your allotment for that. So I would, although I really think a lot of Jack Hunter, I would disagree with him on that minor point.
Tom, you got something you want to add?
I think I think it's pretty much been covered. I think the Mystic River report did a good job, and you know, we'd be happy to talk to you some more. We would advise that you look carefully on your load growth and what you think your true utility credits are going to be, because it is a credit to NSTAR. That NSTAR will credit to you, and you will be under some contract to pay that flat fee whether you use it or not. And you could find yourself with a lot of money in NSTAR's bank waiting for you to use it someday, and the town is paying out funds. So you want to be real careful how you structure that agreement, whichever one of us you take with, and how much you subscribe for.
And we have the same attorney.
And we used them too, didn't we? No conflict there, right? All right. Thank you for being here, and now I'd like to open it up to my colleagues. I'm sure they all have some questions. So we'll start off. Jack?
Well, when you read through the whole report, you're you're almost the same. A little bit here above, a little bit here below. And I did notice, and Mary just addressed it, that both projects have provided draft net metering agreements that were prepared by the same attorney. So.
He is the best in the business.
He's the godfather. Jonathan Clavens is the godfather of legalese and net metering. I've learned that.
And I would advise that, you know, we should follow Jack's recommendations as far as, and I don't usually agree with you too much, do I, Jack? But,
A question, does our attorney have the capacity to write these agreements, or do we need to have an outside firm do this that specializes in this?
I would have to check.
I would have to check, yeah.
And there would also be a power purchase agreement in addition to that, or is that the net meeting agreement? Yeah. Because we generally review that at a Board of Selectmen's meeting and go back and forth on it, so.
Because whoever we wind up with, I would certainly want to hold their feet to the fire, because who knows what's going to happen down the road, like you said, you know what I mean?
Don't wanna lose the
Right,
opportunity.
right, we don't want to lose opportunities.
May I through you?
Go ahead.
I had the opportunity to read Mary's power purchase agreement, and that, to segue off of what you were saying, Jack, about wanting to go through these with a fine tooth and comb, because I had a myriad of questions, which Mary was very nice to respond to the ones I submitted, which were financial in nature, but I still have a lot of follow-up questions and/or concerns regarding it, and but I'd like to ask a question, which is always my biggest fear with solar projects, is the risk of a financial failure. And what is the financial backing of both of you? 'Cause Mary, I'm gonna be quite frank, I went back through the Kingston Selectmen's meetings, 'cause I know that that's where you were involved, and that's a lot of, the renewable energy going on. And you pointed out that your money was so tight that you could only work with them in regards to, I don't think I need to quote, I think you probably remember the meeting. So I'm just a little bit concerned, before if we're making a vote or anything, if you guys can elaborate on your financial backing and protecting the town of Carver, that it won't go bankrupt. And the reason I brought that up too is I saw within the power purchase agreement that I read bankruptcy clauses, talking about the code and everything, so it triggered in my mind as well that fear.
No, that's a very good question, and those bankruptcy clauses are in all these contracts.
Right.
And John Clavens would go through, with your town council, go through all of them, all of that power purchase agreement. But we're in with a really big French company that will be subleasing from us for the 20 years. So then they own them all over the country. So
What French
it's a big one. It's a big one.
a big company.
Right. Well, okay, it's a real big one. Yeah. Well, it's an international. They're on the
Okay.
stock exchange, and so financing. There's no way somebody. It's really too bad what's happened in this country that you can't have a mom and pop business anymore. It's just gone. And this is a whole new industry. It would be nice if you could have it, but you try and get financing for these things. So no, all of us have to bring in the big boys. I'm not old time money. That the man's may be in an entirely different position, but I did what you had to do, and I'm still able to stay in the game. So I'm really happy about it. The fact that I have to lease it to a big person, but at the end of 20 years, my heirs, if I'm gone, will still be able to own that solar farm and that position that I'm in that I was able to set up, even though I didn't have the wherewithal to do it. I'm very proud of myself. So yes, and talk about, and I'm in a much better position than I am now when I started with the wind, and talk about being on a wing and a prayer for the wind. But I sold my house on the ocean to do the soft costs to make that happen, and I did. And it's a success, and it's spinning today. And now I'm off to doing the solar, which is much easier. As difficult as it is, it's much easier to get permitted than wind is. So that's where I am.
Commend you for your courage.
Thank you.
So in other words, it sounds like the company that you're subleasing to would be your financial cushion, if you will.
They're paying, they absolutely stand behind everything. Yes.
Thank you.
Keith would have to really talk about the intricacies of it. I'm kind of on the periphery of the financials for this, but it's my understanding he's put somewhere in the vicinity of $1.5 million of his own funds into this project to date. And when he gets with the pricing ratios we have, when we need the signed interconnect agreement to get it, but we believe we'll have the ratios to get financed from the lenders we've spoken with.
Thank you.
May I, if you look on page 10, the last paragraph, Mr. Nickerson says, with sufficient purchase commitments, both projects should be able to conclude financing, assuming sufficient equity contributions are available to complete the financing projects, meaning tax credits. I skipped a sentence. It is not possible to really get a firm understanding of the capacity of the developer to make or organize these equity commitments in a review like this. Of course, the ultimate decision on debt financing lies with the debt credit committee of the project lenders, and it is impossible to get a firm commitment from any lender until that time.
Thank you.
In other words, they have to look at how thinly capitalized this really is, and that's what we need to evaluate, is the financial risk that are gonna impact the town long-term.
I think what you have to really look at is that this is an opportunity for the town to make some money and to be a part of the whole clean energy or sustainability. So I don't think that there's much for you without the proponents like myself and Keith Mann. These don't happen. It's with the credibility of the municipality is what finances these. That's why it was structured this way in the first place. So it's not how much credit worthy I have or Keith Mann has, it's the town. And unlike California, where the municipalities are no good and they don't accept it, in Massachusetts, they love them. Because from the state down, we have excellent credit ratings. So these are really wanted commodities.
Well, my concern isn't the town, it's you. You need us to do those projects. And we have a very good bond rating. What I wanna do is evaluate you and your sub-lessee and see what their bond ratings are. That you're gonna carry us out all the way through for the 20 years. I don't wanna go halfway through. And that's what we're getting at. With other solar projects that were in town, we have them put in cash surety in case we have to decommission them. But we also look at the financial viability of the project. You don't wanna be 5 years down the road and then all of a sudden, everything goes.
I think the worst case scenario would be you're back to where you are now, you're just buying electricity.
There's nothing to clean up. There's no
Right.
physical plant in town.
That's worst case, but I think if you choose someone to start working with, you have a tight deadline.
Right.
Jack and others can do the due diligence on lending, the attorneys can do their due diligence on the stuff Helen's talking about. But tight deadlines, I think you're getting the picture there.
Well,
They're different than if you ask to have it put on the roof of this building.
These are financial opportunities for the town, and we'll probably make long-term budget decisions based on our savings. So we can't afford to have this thing drop by the wayside.
But once they're constructed, they're constructed. Once the panels are in, they're in. Once the turbines are spinning, they're spinning. So there's not much risk once they're.
That's easy for you to say until we actually take a look at it and see. I know operationally that's true, but financially we need to see what's what. To me,
Well,
anyhow. I know about the
I'm
rest.
looking at the financial. I mean, if we go 10 years and we save a block of money, then how can we, all of a sudden, if this goes, well, we saved that amount of money.
Well,
And
then,
there's nothing going to take that away.
No, and there may
Then
be
what
other
we need to do
opportunities
is-
at that point anyway.
when we make a commitment to do something with the savings, we should only do it in blocks of 10 years or something. Because you want to get 10 years down the road, yeah, we've saved $850,000, but what happens to the rest of the project? That's all my concern is.
Jack, what I believe what Mr. Franny's talking about is that if you commit the savings to something else, then you're stuck.
Yeah.
Oh, I agree, yeah.
There is some volatility.
Could you guys use the microphone?
Where's Mr.
There is some volatility into, you know, what the value of the net metering credits will be from N-Star and the structure of those going, you know, over time anyway. So I think you're gonna have to continue to budget as you do now, which is you look a year ahead, 5 years ahead, whatever it is, and make decisions accordingly on, you know, on the prudence of your best assessment at the time.
It might just be a formatting issue for budget purposes.
I kind of agree with Dick. I mean, you know, even if it goes 10 years, we've got 10 years' worth of profits that we wouldn't have otherwise had. And if the agreements fall apart at that point in time, there's no cleanup cost for us. So we can look at other opportunities at that time. So, I mean, I don't see, you know, the only risk is that we select the wrong project, it doesn't get off the ground, and the other one comes in later. We've lost opportunity, maybe, that's it. But, you know, there's no guarantees on life in anything, so, complete guarantees,
One quick,
except death and taxes.
based on what we're talking about, may I, through you, Mr. Chair, ask one more question in regards to if we were to choose?
Let me allow Ms. Hewens if she has anything, because she's the only one that hasn't spoken yet,
sure.
okay?
I don't want you to lose your train of thought, Helen. Go ahead.
Very
Are you
kind of
sure?
you.
Thank
Okay.
you. To kind of make me feel better in terms of the finances, everyone is absolutely right. Neither of your projects are in Carver. But there is a clause within your purchase agreement, and I don't know how it would work with yours, that if necessary, where was the clause, that the facility can be built elsewhere? I
What
think you know what I'm talking
do.
about, Exhibit A?
I do, because what it's saying is that if necessary, I have more than one project. So as long as you get your net metering credits, I don't really care where they come from, but I would want you to be able to get them. So if it's not from Marshfield, then the other entity could be Dartmouth.
So it wouldn't be a new one outside of Marshfield or Dartmouth?
No.
Okay, thank you.
No.
I mean, that's the beauty of both of these. I mean, if the meteors fell on Dartmouth,
Right.
she could revert, and if one of his turbines fell, there's another turbine.
Sounds like you don't want a plane fall.
Unless it fell on your solar panels, then you get a.
I'm thinking driving home from Route 3 from work.
You all set with that?
Get that so
Thank you,
close to
Sarah.
So,
What a
thank you.
visual.
I just wanted a couple of clarifications, and then I have two questions that I was wondering if both applicants could address. And Jack, I wanted to ask you, we've gotten a number of different figures on what our total use is. This report from Dave Nickerson says it's about 3 million, so 3 million kilowatt hours. We originally had thought we used 4. Then we got numbers from a different source that said maybe it's 2.2 for the town, 2.2 for the schools. Do we have a number, or maybe Rick, you might know?
I'm gonna let Rick answer
Yeah.
how the genesis of that started, because it was before I was here.
And then I have some other questions. too.
Right. I'll do my best with that. And initially, going back in time before these types of proposals, we would go out and try to find, either through municipal consortiums or whatever the case is, try to find the best rates we could. And the last time we did that, several years ago now, the school took the lead in that because they had access to certain consortiums. And at that time, the school determined they were using about 2.2 kilowatt hours, megawatt hour, what's the right terminology? 2.2 megawatts a year. And that they also were spending about half of the of the overall town's expenditures. So there was just a simple, calculation that, well, that means, the town's probably somewhere in the 4 to 4.5 range as a total. So we never really honed that down, because we never had any reason to until this particular these issues come forward, because at that point, you're just buying, a fixed rate regardless of how much you're actually using. So it wasn't until these types of projects came forward that it became important to try to hone down exactly what your usage is on that basis. Before that, it was a budget issue, not so much an issue with regard to your megawatts usage.
And so our megawatt usage now is?
According to the accounting office and verified by Rick, and I even asked Jerry Farquharson to look at it. It's about a little over 3 megawatts.
A little over 3.
I'd like to say we saved a megawatt, but we probably haven't conserved that much.
But
So-
we have, someone mentioned.
Some we have, but yeah.
I talked to Dave Seatontoff, and he said there's absolutely been some savings.
Oh, yeah.
in
It
the
was 11% savings at one
And I
point.
know you got rid of
Yes.
traffic light,
Yeah.
Street light.
lights and that
Mm.
kind of stuff.
Yep.
But, as he points out in table,
B.
is it?
I don't know the page number, it's
Page
not on
6.
here.
There's the gross up.
Oh, okay.
That's how much net metering credits you can buy to offset those charges in the middle.
Okay.
So your capacity is 3 million, but you can go all the way up to 3.9 and not be wasting money.
I thought it says here. Oh, so you're adding the actual with the gross up
Right.
to make 3.9?
If you, the number that he used was 3 million kilowatt hours, and if you take our two proposals and you multiply that by the 11 cents, if you look at kind of the third page of this thing I handed out, it's kind of this transaction that occurs. You contract for utility credits, in this case, it's on a, with how many kilowatt hours that NSTAR is going to give you net meter credits for. You're gonna get that credit on your bills, collectively on your bills. You're gonna be paying out based on what you subscribe a flat fee to one of us. Where you wanna be careful is, you wanna match the utility credits to the flat fee, so you're not cutting a check on credits that are going into NSTAR's bank. Or, to the gross up point, you take more utility credits, because the flat fee doesn't cover your entire bill. So if you can oversubscribe on utility credits, you can wipe out your electric bill. But again, it's some analysis that has to be done by somebody to say, I want enough credits to get my bill to 0, or I just want enough credits to match my kilowatt hours. I'll still have to pay, but I'm buying down the kilowatt hour portion of that bill because I'm getting credits.
And
So
so,
there's some work there.
and so if you look at that table, 3.9 gross up, 1.6 gross up committed with Antero, that leaves you 2.3. The reason I recommend two, just being your planner, not an expert in this, is for savings. And what if you're wrong? What if there's a little give you some wiggle room here, because you don't want to be buying credits and just putting them in NSTAR's bank.
Mhm. Thank you. That leads to one of my questions, actually, because I wanted to ask both proponents, and I know Mary had tried to address this a little bit earlier. The first question, how this may, if we are to max out our capacity here and contract with either one or both of you in some form, all the way up to what we're using now and then plus the gross out, that actually cuts out the landowners in Carver, particularly large landowners who might want to do a project, and that's my understanding. And Mary, you're suggesting that that's not the case. Could you, or one or both of you, maybe elaborate a little bit on that? What they would still be able to do, if anything?
Well, first of all, if they're trying to do a commercial operation, it doesn't help them. If they're trying to, any homeowner in town can still do whatever, use as much solar as they want.
So they wouldn't be able to sell credits back to
Yes, they can.
NSTAR?
Every homeowner in town can still do it. It does not, NSTAR does not add that to their net metering credits. So
when you say they couldn't do it as a commercial operation, what do you mean?
in other words, we're commercial size. We're, Keith Mann is at 8 megawatts, and one of mine is at 4, and the other one's at 6.
Okay.
So that's commercial. And my point to you is that, yes, in the future, could someone use it? If the uptake went big enough, if Carver becomes a bigger user of electricity, yes. But I think what's most important is that this isn't something that you want to plan for the future. You should make as much money or save as much money as you can now to hold this in the thought that there's a possible landowner that just may in the future want to take advantage of this, you know, where are they and where have they been? Because the program, as my brother has already said, is running out. The tax credits are running out. The set-asides are running out. So I would say that would be pretty, not very good planning for the town fathers, is just to try and bank some for a future landowner.
So you're saying that if there is a future landowner, because there might be,
Right.
That they could still do projects, say, under a megawatt on their own
Ye-
land?
Under a megawatt on their own land, if you're going to keep the 0.4%, yeah, probably, I'm sure that they would. And by the time they got permitted interconnection's over 2 years. You know, the thought of someone really making one of these things happen.
Well, I'm just suggesting that it, in my opinion, it might be a nice project as opposed to a housing development, which is tax negative, and we get the taxes off the project, the personal property taxes.
Right.
And you're right, it hasn't happened yet, and
Right.
and I'm not
Right.
and I appreciate your answer.
In a perfect world, yeah, it would be great. It would be great. It would be great that whatever the uptake was that the town used more of in the future, that it all went to set aside for local people to do it, whether wind or solar. But there's a lot of opposition to both.
Sure.
I mean, who would think that butters would sue on a permit in where you can never see it? It's off the beaten track. You can it's on a 600-acre parcel of land, and it got sued. It got appealed. So you go figure it. I can't.
No, I understand. Thank you.
This is not an easy business, and it certainly isn't for the light of heart, I'll tell you. And I'm glad I'm as old as I am, because otherwise I'm never going to take it.
You talking about our business or your business?
Talking to all this.
You know, and Sarah and I talked about this, it wouldn't preclude a landowner from building one if he got permitted and selling it to some other town.
Okay. So
That's what I'm doing.
So my last question then is, in this document that we've been reviewing by Mr. Griver, they warn us on a number of occasions, not only to make sure that we protect ourselves in case the project doesn't actually go to fruition, but particularly not to contract for too many net metering credits. And so I wanted to just ask or state that I agree. I don't want to, as a town official, to be contracting for credits that are going back to NSTAR's pocket that we don't need. So I just don't know how you want to address that. Because right now you're offering us way more than we even use.
Yes, and because we're going to different entities, I believe Keith has stated he would try to size it to the right size that we would work with you to develop. And it's all those things we talked about a few minutes ago. You can buy your bill down to zero, but you don't want to buy it to, negative something, because it's just going to be going in some fund to NSTAR. And if you don't have enough load, you won't get that money out of there, because you don't have the load to get the credits back to you, to get it to buy down the dollars you would have spent. So in our projects, because we are going to other off-takers, we would be willing to size it to the size you want.
I appreciate that. Mary?
Same deal. I don't want you to contract for more than what you need or want, but I want to caution you that you should get as much as you can get while the getting's good. Because there are a lot of municipalities who've caught on. Dartmouth is all gone. They maxed theirs out at 10 megawatts. Plymouth, gone. In fact, their school committee picked it all up. Town's not too happy about that, but they just did it because somebody on the board figured out, hey, this is a good deal. So when the town woke up and came after it, bye-bye now. So I just caution you to, this is just one of those really nice things, and it's I'm really happy to be a part of it because it's into sustainability and it's into doesn't pollute my grandchildren or any one of us, and it does all kinds of great things, and the towns have an opportunity to make money at it, so what's not to like?
So both of you have said you'll work with us on this, and I'm presuming that would be part of the final language in the contract, however that works.
Yeah, I think whether we work collectively, ultimately, the town is going to have to decide what that number is. And you may have to look a little closer at your electric bills. You know, NSTAR has a lot of data. You may have to be at that and work.
You have all the data. It's all there. We'll help you.
Thank you.
So Jack, are they giving us a fixed amount on the credits, or will we be impacted if the value of those credits falls?
We're not impacted.
The net metering credits.
If you're asking, are you asking that if you are willing to buy, only willing to buy less than they've offered, are they gonna still hold their price?
No, I'm just wondering, I mean, they're offering us, they're within a penny of each other. Is that a fixed
Yes.
amount, or is that gonna be impacted by if the net metering credit value drops?
No, they're stuck. What their proposal is, hers is 10 cents, his is 11 for 20 years, flat. And I've never seen one like this. And I've talked to people about it, and they've never seen anything like this.
So both parties are taking a significant amount of risk in signing a
I would say so.
non-escalating contract.
Unless you believe electricity prices are gonna go down over the next 20 years. And then you may be taking a risk.
Yes.
You sounded like Mary for a sec there, Jack.
Well, yeah, I didn't know whether we wanted to move forward with this, but I think my questions have been answered, and the consultant on page 13 makes a suggestion. It's the third paragraph down under the first risk that they're talking about, that we might want to consider contracting with Mary's organization and also executing a contingent contract with Keith's outfit.
That's a good idea.
I think that's what Jack mentioned earlier when he was speaking. So.
Correct.
I talked to Mr. Mann today about that, and he was hesitant about contracting,
Oh, memorandum of understanding.
but a
sorry.
memorandum of understanding, because he didn't want to
Okay.
get into a contract, and then he has an opportunity to sell it somewhere else, and he's stuck.
Understandable.
Absolutely.
Sure.
Although whoever we contract with, we need to make sure that the parameters are finite and they're close, and because if we start to fall behind somewhere, we need to be able to leap to another opportunity. So, ladies and gentlemen of the board, what say ye? Any more questions?
I just have one more question to finalize. So if we go forward with one of the projects, we will have an opportunity to come together as a board and to go through the purchase agreement.
Yeah,
Oh,
you,
yeah.
right.
Okay, okay.
You would have to
I-
execute a final contract,
Okay.
right.
There's a lot of legalese and stuff to go, yeah.
Okay.
I'd suggest that you authorize, you do it.
Actually, I was gonna suggest that Mr. Hunter suggest a motion. Only be that relates to the,
I'm assuming, it sounds like you're going with no fossil, and I kind of talked to Keith about this, that you executed, that you authorize the town administrator and myself, and perhaps one or two of you guys, to negotiate a final agreement with no fossil fuel and a memorandum of agreement with Future Generation Wind with specific deadlines and other appropriate measures as outlined in this memo.
that's good.
Either one of the proponents have an issue with that? Is happy with that, okay. Yeah, I think we would be remiss if we didn't listen to the consultants who were paid a significant sum of money to investigate this and draft the report. But it's up to the pleasure of the board. Jack has proposed a motion.
So moved.
Sorry, Jack.
I'd like to second that motion.
So moved and seconded. We open for any further discussion?
Mr. Chairman, if I could just ask if you're so inclined to approve that, if we could, maybe the two members on the end who we can get early or after work would be those two members, just for the sake of expediency. That's all.
I was gonna
In terms of negotiating agreement for the board to review.
respectfully disagree,
That's
because I
fine.
would be very interested in being part of it, depending on how you're going to go
Okay,
about
well, we can
choosing.
take a separate motion on that.
That's
and-
fine, okay.
Yeah. We'll fight that out in the back room, get the boxing gloves out.
We don't
When-
fight.
Started
When we pass
Easy.
teleconference thing that was proposed to us, you'll be all set.
No.
No, we're-
Easy,
No,
Mary,
since
easy,
these are-
Mary, you're treading on thin ice.
Then we'd
Will
have to
these be
post a
public
meeting.
meetings?
All right, we have a motion and a second.
Yeah.
The town administrator has made a suggestion that we'll follow up on after we close this issue right here. So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of going with the recommended proposal, please say aye.
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 Aye. Those opposed? It's unanimous. I want to thank you both for being here. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck, and we're looking forward to
Thank you,
this
Jack.
money rolling in. Come on.
Honey, I'm working as fast as I can.
Okay.
Wow.
I still got a little. Very little.
Do we want to put the topic for who's going to serve on the committee for the next meeting?
Yeah, give it some
Yeah,
thought.
Why don't we do that?
That's
Everybody
fine.
gives a chance to think about it, and
And in the meantime, if you don't mind, Jack and I can at least start putting some form to this and,
absolutely.
and whatever subcommittee can.
K&P, I don't know if.
First, we need to identify.
I will figure that out
I
in the
was-
next day or
I
two.
was wondering if, because he puts in there that he has,
I saw that, he's not an attorney, I don't think.
Yeah, we can also look at my tax title attorney. He helped us with Ravenbrook. So we
I
can
don't
look at
care
them
who
as
does
well.
it, but
Yeah.
Will,
as long as our interests are protected, I don't care
Right.
who does it either.
I would say if K&P has somebody who has written many of these that would be one thing. If not, we might have to look at a special
Yeah,
counsel.
we can look at
but-
the both.
But we can find that out in the next day or two, very easily,
Okay,
so,
very good. All right, moving right along.
thanks, Jack.
Thanks, Jack. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Jack.
Know you've been busy. Update on the Recreation Committee. Is that you, Rick?
Well, basically, I think, I had put in an email to the chairman and have not received a reply yet as to what her intentions are with regards. So I just don't have anything, so I'd hope to have a quick update for you tonight on that, but I don't, so.
I
I
make
don't
a
know if you
motion
have
we table
something.
it.
I was
Mike?
told that a resignation was gonna be forthcoming so
Okay.
that we could move on. You
Okay.
have not seen that, you
I
said?
haven't seen it. I do know that I was talking to Mr. Ranella within the last day or two, and he did say that he knows of several people who have expressed some interest in joining. So once we can solidify exactly how many openings we have, so
Can
hopefully
we
within the
table
next.
that to the next meeting?
Yes.
Yeah,
Make a motion, we table it till the next meeting.
beautiful. Thank you.
Second.
I'll make another phone call. If the the letter is not forthcoming, then what I suggest is we have a meeting on reconstituting that.
That's fine.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
We can't hang around forever waiting on that.
Yep.
Okay, that's the update?
That's it.
Very good. Discussion on timeframe for committees, boards, commissions producing minutes. I know, Sarah, you did some research on this, right?
No, actually, I was gonna recuse myself.
Were you?
This had, yeah, that, you're talking, I think, about executive session minutes.
I thought it was any minutes. I didn't understand what the posting was on there anyhow.
Yeah, I just,
It's possible that we did not accurately reflect the intention of that.
yeah,
You want to table that?
If you choose to
let's table it.
withdraw that or table it, it wouldn't break my
Table
heart.
it till the next meeting and make a motion?
Well,
I,
Wait a minute, what do you want to say?
No, I would
just regular minutes.
I would say
I thought it
whomever,
was too.
these sometimes, I don't know which member or members had made a request on this, but whoever that was, if you'd like to contact the office and we can flesh it out, if not, you don't ever have to see it again. I'm not
I
looking to
believe it
create
was
issues.
me because I wanted
Okay.
to be working in conjunction with the changing and the amending of the executive minutes, so, but
Okay,
I wouldn't,
Can we table it till next week?
yeah,
And then we- It's the
absolutely.
next meeting.
A motion to table it?
I made a
Second.
motion.
Motion and seconded. Any further comment? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Tabled. Sarah? Okay, next up is Rotary Collision Update.
Yep.
Licenses were picked up and paid for on 9/27/12. Gene, is that you?
That is the update, Mr. Chairman. That was the last outstanding license issue for the current calendar year.
Okay.
So we don't
Gotta
have to
work
take
you on
any
next.
action.
That's
No
right.
action. Next up is possible appointment of tax collector as tax title custodian. And this was something that was just brought to my attention tonight. I wasn't sure what was really going on with this, but.
Well, I've worked with this particular property owner for 5.5 years, and, yeah, it's come down to the point where it's gonna be awarded to the town on November 2nd. So I had suggested that, I be appointed a tax title custodian so I could negotiate further with him. The town's been protected, we've been getting 16% interest. Been working hard to help him stay in business and keep his property, so if we can, if I can be appointed the tax title custodian, it gives you all, there's protections in there for the town that I can only have the care, custody, and management and control of subject property, but down the bottom it says, this motion does not prevent the town from disposing of in any manner authorized by law.
Two things.
yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Jack, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
We got Will Sinclair. Will approached me on my way in here from the RDA.
Yeah.
He has some thoughts on this, and Rick and I also spoke briefly before the meeting. He has some thoughts on this. Why don't we hold yours, Rick, and Will, why don't you go ahead and state what,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and the board members. My concern on this was actually what was printed as on your agenda. It was wide open. I was unaware that this was for a specific entity
Okay.
that we were talking about. Like I had discussed with you, I guess, I don't know if that's a concern for the open meeting law or specificity or not, or what have you. I don't want to get into that. My only concern to the board was, and I know that me and Mr. Franny's talked about this before, we have a TOPS committee that was put in place that different people that look at different aspects of properties and kind of give recommendations to you folks on what happens with that. And I think that that process has worked quite well in the past. And I'd hate to see just one person, whether it's Mr. Franny or someone else, have total control of the one property and not have a full rounded disclosure from other entities that might see something different. That was my only concern on it. As far as the car wash issue, in your agenda, it didn't specify that, so I was unaware of that, Mr. Chairman. I apologize to you and the board on that. Thank you.
You enlightened me on some things, so.
Thank you very much, I appreciate that.
So, Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
you're talking about you're asking us to appoint you the tax title custodian on this one property?
Just the property.
Okay, I
And
understand.
generally, in most cities and towns in Massachusetts, the treasurer collector is the deputy. Is the tax title custodian. But for this, I know we have the TOPS committee and the redevelopment authority. This is a very specialized piece of property. If we were to take it and put it in the redevelopment authority, it could be years before we sold it. The equipment has to be working all the time. I think it would be a bad move for the town and for the owner of the property. Right now, he's paying $12,000 a year in interest to us, plus his taxes of $8,000. That's $20,000. If we were to let that go, it would create a gap in our budget of $20,000. So we have an opportunity to do some good here. We know that we've gone through this, bad economic time, so we have an opportunity of, putting this back on the tax rolls with the original owner. Everyone's gone through some difficult times, and it would be a good thing for the town, I think.
Thank you, Jack. Rick, you had some thoughts on
Just
it earlier.
a couple quick things, some of them already been stated, but the first is that, the TOPS committee, which I'm a big fan of, town-owned properties, we don't actually own this property, so you question whether it's applicable anyway. But as the town's collector, the treasurer collector has the ability to do essentially what this motion says, except that it's just in another phase of the tax title process. So it's really nothing different than he has as a collector before it goes into tax possession. So, and because it's only related to this one property, that's the few times in the past the board has assigned the collector this this responsibility. It's been the same thing, assigned to very specific properties, so
So you see no issues?
I don't see
no
any issues
conflicts?
with this as it's outlined here.
Through you, Mr. Chair?
Yes, ma'am.
I think Will had a good point about the open meeting law, and, not even getting into the topic of whether we agree or disagree. I really think that we should put it on the agenda for next time and be specific on the agenda to that specific property.
Is that an
Well, you run,
impact?
you run the risk of this being awarded to the town, and then I can't negotiate it, then it comes right to the town.
No,
Next meeting is
Next
next Monday,
week.
next
Next
Tuesday.
Yeah, we only have 1 week.
Is that long enough?
Well, it is,
Is
I
that
mean,
long
it
enough?
identifies the property. It doesn't call it the car wash. It
Well,
calls
What's
it
the deadline date, Jack? The drop dead
November
date?
2nd.
So if we vote
Yeah.
next week, we're okay?
Yeah, I mean, Helen's right, it doesn't identify the property
Yeah.
on the agenda.
Well, okay.
No, my feelings are this, the genesis of this is we're trying to save this business, right?
Yeah,
I'm all for
trying
that.
to save it
I'm
for-
all for that.
Right.
Yeah.
We don't need another vacant building in town. We need revenue-producing businesses, okay? So, I'm all for you.
Yeah.
Can we do it next week so it's more
Yeah.
specific, no
It's
open
up to
meeting
you.
law?
I just hope that it does get done, because if it doesn't, we take a piece of property, it sits up there vacant for a while, and we have a $20,000 gap.
But you might have people, because I saw these gentlemen here, and I said, what are you doing here?
They're the owners.
But
dealt with
it
me for
does,
5.5
I'm looking at
years.
the agenda,
Or it's not
so
on there.
somebody else looks at the agenda. That's the problem, I think Helen's pointing out.
We might have an open meeting law violation, Jack, with this, that's the
Okay.
problem. But I don't think you have any disagreement from the board, from what I'm detecting,
Okay.
about the purpose of this and the intent.
Just want to avoid another
And I hope you gentlemen understand that, okay?
By the way, you're welcome here at any time. I didn't mean it that way.
We like to see bodies in the chairs out there, you know? It gives us a sense of purpose up here.
And the other thing, Mr. Chair, if I may, Jack, you might want to put in this document, the actual map number too, because it just says Lot 21, and that's really, you really need the assessor's complete description, I
It
think.
says, book and page, but I'll put it in.
Yeah, it needs to be in there.
We're behind you, Jack. Let's just do it right.
Do it right.
Okay, we have a motion to table this till next meeting?
That's
Make-
right.
Second,
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 I abstain.
Jack abstains. Okay, it's four.
I had to abstain in.
All right, yeah, 401. Thank you. Moving on. Request for a fishing tournament at Sampson's Pond from Federation Nation of Mass Bass to be held on Saturday, August 10th, 2013.
Motion to approve.
Second,
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? It's unanimous, sir. Approval of minutes on July 10th, 2012.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of July 10th, 2012.
Yeah, I'll second her motion.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I just had one question, because I wanted to amend under discussion and vote on audit interviews, and it went for a number of weeks and didn't get done. So then when I did send in my changes, other changes were added in there, so I just wanted to make that comment. I think that once you ask for people to make changes to them, that you would think that that would be it, unless you made the changes.
I'm sorry, but Ms. Hewens also asked for changes.
You and I both had asked, had
Oh,
said
you
we had a
asked?
few changes.
Oh,
Mhm.
you-
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Those- yeah.
so did you make the changes in there?
Yeah, there
Okay.
was just a couple minor things.
Are we good? No further discussion? We had a motion to accept?
Yes, I made a motion to accept the minutes of July 10th,
And
2012.
who made the second?
Dick did.
Mr. Ward?
But I'm
We
getting
have a motion
tired.
and a second. Yeah, I know. No further discussion. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? It's unanimous. Citizens' participation.
Very brief.
Mr. Belbin.
You said that before.
Just
I
keep
have
that,
the
keep
hammer
that
right
ready,
here.
okay? The thing about the meeting minutes, I know with the redevelopment authority, I'm basically making this, bringing it to the board, that within 2 weeks, I have draft meeting minutes posted to the members. And then, therefore, they're available online for them to vote on at the next meeting. That would be my only suggestion. It's quick, efficient, it meets the 10-day time period. If someone requests those meeting minutes by the open meeting law, all right, within 10 days, we can get those drafted. That would be my only suggestion. Thank you.
Thank you for your brevity. Anybody else? Mr. Shannon, so nice to see you. It's been a while.
Mr. Shannon?
Hi, I'm Phil Shannon, and I noticed that there's openings for the website committee, so I just wanted to drop off an application.
Be happy to take it from you.
You are quick.
If you have any
You
questions.
are quick.
And Mr. Shannon is a man of few words, I see. So.
Yeah.
I think we would have to put him on the agenda, wouldn't we?
Yeah.
Yes, yes, just, but we
Oh,
can
we
Then we'll
certainly,
ask you questions.
We
we can
appreciate
certainly
that.
take his
Thank you.
application.
Sign it and date it.
Should I bring my resume, or?
That would probably help.
Just sign it, why don't you sign it? And we'll take that from you.
Are you in the IT field,
Yeah.
Mr. Shannon?
Yeah, I've been working in IT for about 15 years.
Okay.
And my only concerns would be is that I work in Cambridge, so I'm not sure when meetings are. So that
That's-
could be a problem.
That's something you guys as a committee can work out,
Okay.
so.
This is 16th?
Yes. If you want to just email us something.
Sure, okay.
Thank you for showing
Yeah.
interest.
And you sat here through all of this.
For that.
God bless you. All right, thank you. Anybody else?
Oh,
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Board of Selectmen, thank you.
Mr.
This is
Sinclair.
really for a little bit of thanks for everybody concerned. This past weekend, this Saturday, we had Kayla's Beat Goes On, the 5K race that was held at Jordan Hospital, sponsored by the Jordan Hospital Club. And we had a phenomenal turnout. It was a very nice turnout. It was a beautiful day. And I'd just like to thank everybody who either participated, that contributed, that it's greatly appreciated. It was always goes to a great cause and everything. And, you know, it always ceases to amaze me that the community that we live in, the people that embrace such a entity, such an issue, where even in these tough times, people can contribute and be a part of it. And it was very close to me this year, and I don't know why. It just meant a lot to see that type of a crowd out there, and I just wanted to say thank you to everybody out there, and especially the citizens listening today. Thank you for your support.
Well, if you hold on a second, if you'd allow me an opportunity, maybe we can explain to the folks at home. Some of them may not be aware of what you're talking about. Would that be okay with you?
Yeah, that's fine. I think it's a good opportunity to promote it for next year.
Okay.
Because, you know, we, since Kayla's tragic death 5 years ago, the Jordan Hospital Club always had this race, but it was never named after somebody. It was always a thing that they tried to do to fundraise, to put money back into the hospital. They had, since then, had named it after Kayla. And every year, it's been getting bigger and bigger. The community involvement is huge. It's always for a great cause for the Jordan Hospital. It's our closest point for access and health and well-being for our community. But just to see the involvement from the different towns, the different entities, the small businesses, the large businesses, the community in a whole that gets involved in this, it's just amazing to me that it has that much of an impact. And this year, for some reason, it really caught me by surprise. Maybe because it was such a beautiful, nice day. But the amount of people that participated was great. It was just overwhelming.
For the benefit of the folks at home that may not be aware, Kayla was Will and Judy's daughter, and I believe she'd be about 29 right now. She's the same age as my daughter Casey. They went to school
My
together.
stepdaughter, to be
Right,
clear.
right. And she passed away at the gym
Yep.
while on a treadmill. And now Jordan Hospital is the host of this fundraiser every year. So if you can find the time, come on out and walk with the folks that do the walk or run it. And, you know, you'll see a lot of your neighbors and friends there, and it's a good
great time.
cause.
It's a great time.
Great
and
cause.
It's always nice to get together with, you know, old friends and old family and see all our old friends it's a good time.
Our thoughts and prayers are still with you.
Thank you. I
You're welcome.
appreciate it. I just wanted to express my opinion to the community. It's greatly appreciated.
God bless.
Thank you, Will.
All right. This is unbelievable.
Last and definitely not least,
Not the least at all.
I just wanted to, I saw to go way back, I'll be brief, to the UN issue. This is why
You might want to announce who you are. for
Oh,
the
I'm
record.
sorry.
We know who you are, but.
Okay. Andy Cottarelli, 19 Pope's Point Road. To go back to the UN issue, I just wanted to say something about it myself. What the things that you would have had to have done, which I just wanted to let you know, was issue a proclamation to be at the State House, which was fine. Encourage educators to conduct model UN simulations in the schools. Encourage libraries to show displays of the UN and their procedures, and to fly the United Nations flag over Town Hall. All right, now, I know many veterans, and I was talking to the veterans agent last night, and none of them, my dad, fought in World War II, my grandfather, many people in this town didn't fight enemies abroad to live under UN sanction, or even one day under the UN flag. The UN, though it was started as a good thing by by FDR. It was actually started to promote freedom and democracy as a U.S. model throughout the world. It hasn't been that in a long time, and we pay a lot of their budget, and a lot of countries vote against us. They don't have to agree with us all the time, but now we just to get to something more recent. We saw the Libyan terrorist attacks on 9/11 this year. The Secretary General Ban Ki-moon, they were talking about free speech, and that was the big debate at the time, because of the supposed tape that we now found out wasn't the reason why there was a supposed protest. His comment was, if you allow me, when some people use this freedom of expression to provoke or humiliate some others' values and beliefs, then this cannot be protected. So we're talking about an organization that goes against our most important right and value and freedom that comes from God, and as we believe. And his vice secretary basically said, the gift given to us by the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which would be the freedom of speech, a UN declaration. That's how they see the freedom of speech. And it says it's a privilege that we have, in which my views involves also need the respect and need to avoid provocations. Totally goes against even what President Obama said, a few days later. And for those of you who know me, know I don't agree with him on everything. But I just wanted to put that out there and just say, I think you guys, you selectmen guys, you selectmen did the right thing, even though it looks nice on the outside. This organization does not promote United States American values, and I applaud Helen for standing up, which could, Mike and Jack too. It's easy to be ridiculed now with something that looks so, peaceful, or so, and that was their original message, but it hasn't been that in a long time. When we have an organization that won't stop someone or even protest another leader of a country coming and calling our president the devil, there's something wrong there.
Thank you, Mr. Cottarelli.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
If I can, I think you have to applaud all five of us, because we are the United States of America.
That's right.
And this is what it's all about.
It's all about choice.
Freedom of speech for all of us.
I wasn't meaning to persecute anybody, anyone. I was just saying, just tell them, put herself out there, and you guys voted with
Yeah.
it, so. That was it.
We know what you meant.
Mr. Cardarelli, is there any chance we could get a copy of that
You
document?
can have these if you want.
Thank you.
I just printed them out. There's only two singles. Oh, and you're talking about this is the Washington Post that came from.
Thank you very much.
Any other citizens' participation, and Mr. Belbin, you do not get a second shot. Okay. All right, hearing none, we have the town administrator notes.
Very quickly, I got yesterday a list of of consideration for the newly configured ambulance abatement committee, which includes 2 members of the board and me, as opposed to 2 members of the board and Tom. So I'll be seeking an opportunity to meet with the 2 of you to go over that. So you'll be expecting an email from me.
Do we need to vote on that too, or?
No, just giving you a heads up.
Isn't it me and you and the chairman's
The chairman, the vice
designee?
chairman, and me is who you designated to do this on behalf of the board, right, working with Tom. Secondly, I do have a copy under the executive session minutes policy that you stuck down my throat a few weeks ago. I'm just kidding. I do have a draft of those minutes for members after the meeting. I just want to, I know you know this, but these are draft. These are not subject to release perhaps anytime soon. It's only for your review to determine if you believe they are reasonably accurate for acceptance at a future date. Last but not least, I just want to mention that I really feel that the way the board, and particularly Mr. Hunter, handled this deliberation over the issue of renewable energy was really outstanding, and I think it hopefully would maybe even be a model for other communities, because there's going to be a lot of people in that same dilemma over time, whether it's now or 5 years or 10 years. I just thought it was done really well, so I just want to commend everybody's efforts there.
Thank you, Mr. LaFawn. Is that all?
That's it, yes, I'm sorry.
I'm amazed.
When I'm done, stop talking. Don't give me a chance, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Selectmen, anybody want to volunteer to jump out front?
I will.
Go ahead, Jack.
I have 4 things. The Wade Street property and the Oak Drive property have been returned from the redevelopment authority. Can we put them on the next agenda? See what we're gonna do with them. There was a lot of interest in the Wade Street property. Maybe we can just discuss it and maybe have a public hearing in the future.
I'd like to have a discussion on
Yeah,
that.
so can we just put them on as agenda items, just kind of discuss in what direction we're gonna go with them? It's Wade Street and Oak Drive. If you might have noticed on the way in, there's a bag of groceries there. I want to challenge my fellow selectmen at every meeting that we have, at least through the winter months, that you bring in a bag with some groceries in it that we can use to deliver to the Council on Aging to replenish our food pantry.
But you're
I think
challenging us
actions
to
speak louder than words. And
race to the
hopefully my
bag.
wife will remember to buy my groceries before I come here, because I'll be awfully embarrassed. I just think it would be a good gesture on the part of the board if each one of us brought a bag with some groceries in, and then,
I'll have you know, my wife drove one down there the other day, so. But I could bring them in here, Jack, that's okay.
no, that's good. I'll be attending the Association of Town Finance Committee meeting on regionalization that's coming this Saturday. And the last thing is, South Meadow Village has their Christmas fair on this coming Saturday as well, too. That's it.
Sarah, would you like to?
Sure, thank you. I wanted to briefly thank everyone who was able to attend the Route 44 solar project ribbon cutting. I know some of you weren't, and I think between Jack Hunter and I, everyone was mentioned, and you obviously had your reasons for not being able to be there. Jack and I were there, and I wanted to just reiterate the brief thing that I did say there, and that was that I hope that people will remember that so many things are interconnected, and that if the town hadn't had the foresight to adopt the Community Preservation Act, we wouldn't have been able to buy the coal property for conservation and drinking water supply protection purposes. We would never have put up the pumping station to pump the water to the businesses, to help our tax base. And obviously, the solar panels would never have been there because there wouldn't have been any use for them. So it's just a nice culmination to a series of projects that happen, and a lot of work went into those things. It's not something that just you sit around and it happens. So I just wanted people to remember a little of that history. On a lighter note, I was asked, for reasons I have no idea why, I was asked by the interim, or the director for the Council on Aging and the library director, Carol Julius, to be one of 3 pie tasting judges at the library last Saturday. I think, you know, it was a number out of a hat or something. She also asked Reverend Bob Merritt and a library worker named Brenda Mannix. The three of us were concurred. It was a really tough job, but somebody had to do it.
Who won?
You know, I'm
The
really
testers won,
blocking
that's
on the name. It was a young lady who actually who lives in town, and her.
You had to ask Mike, didn't you? She
Yeah.
had it on the tip
What was
of
the
her
pie?
tongue.
You remember the pie?
Oh yeah, it was really good. It was really really good. Well, they were all apple. They were all apple.
Oh, apple, okay. Should have been
And I'm really sorry I'm forgetting her first name, but she is Pauline Lopez's daughter. I know that, and she actually is a baker at the moment. But you know, it was tough. All the pies were good. Anyway, so we had three first, second, and third place winners. I wanted to remind people of a couple of meetings that are coming up. One is tomorrow. A group called Work It Wednesday is going to be meeting at USA Fitness tomorrow between the hours of 3 and 8 p.m. And this is largely a group of business owners and business people of all sorts that get together. It's a networking opportunity for people. On Friday, October 19th, there's going to be a water and cranberries workshop for municipal officials. If anyone's able to go, it's kind of in the middle of the day. It's hard for people who, you know, don't leave work at 12 o'clock as we usually do on Fridays. But it's from 10:15 to 3:15. I've been to this workshop before, and it's a terrific workshop because water and cranberries, it's a very important connection between the two, and they have a number of topics: sustainable water management Act in cranberries, cranberry use, and farm planning. And it's just something that, as a municipal official, I think it's very important to know about. So you have to pre-register. You can contact the Growers Association for that, and they're right down the street, and they're in the phone book. The last quick thing is, that was it. Actually, that's it.
Excellent. Moving right along. Mr. Ward.
I'll come down and see you.
What's that?
I like your suggestion, Jack. I'm always plugging for the food pantry. My wife works there once a week, and she spends anywhere from $10 to $30 a week when she goes shopping for things to take down there, so I'm in already.
Now you might be in twice, Dick. Helen?
Just a few things. Sarah and I must be the special two, because I was invited to the pie tasting contest, but I contacted my Weight Watcher counselor, and she said it's a definite, not a Weight Watchers must. No, I'm absolutely kidding. I had to attend a college meeting for my daughter. It sounds like it was so much fun. Anyway, I was charged with the task of working with Rick LaFond on the thought process on consolidating different departments and whether it's a viable way to go for this town, et cetera. So I too will be attending the meeting this coming Saturday with Jack, because it is a lot of the content will be discussing consolidation. It's obviously a hot topic in many of the different communities, so I will be there. I want to thank the school committee and Liz Sorrell for really working hard to bring this community together and the stakeholders in terms of getting our school project going again. It's taken a lot of effort, so I just want to commend them, and I look forward to the next step with the work focus group. And last but not least, I just want to encourage people, residents, to put December 6th on their calendar to attend the special town meeting. It is critical for us to be able to move forward with the different processes in town regarding the tax bills. And not only that, but it will be the holiday season. It will probably be maybe we can have apple cider and things like that to bring the community together a little bit during the holiday season, right, Rick?
If you'd like to bring some.
So on that note, thank you. Have a good night.
Mr. Chairman, I know you'd read it, but 30 more seconds, would you indulge me?
Absolutely.
And this is just in reference to what Jack and Helen both mentioned about the regionalism discussion, and I think as it pertains to downsizing and consolidation, I think that type of approach, where you're, sharing people, it makes a lot of sense if you can make those things work, because one of the things that Jack knows, and I know Helen knows, but is still learning, is that the discipline of a particular position is not something that you can just lump on other people. You can't just make your town accountant your treasurer collector. There are checks and balances issues, statutory issues, and that's just an example.
Yeah.
But sharing professionals is probably in the long term more of a viable type option. So I think I'm happy that that's something that you're taking seriously.
I invited Rick. I don't know if he can
Yeah.
go or not, but at least we'll bring back the stuff for the Board of
That's all I
Selectmen.
got, Mr. Chairman.
We'll bring
Thank
back extra copies.
It's on me now, huh?
It's on you.
It's on me, okay. Couple of things. Jack tried to steal my thunder about the South Meadow Village Association's 33rd Annual Holly Fair, October 20th, 2012, 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. Something for everyone: baked goods, books, preserves, clothing shop, linens, knit items, and baby items, holiday crafts and decorations, White Elephant Barn, plants, jewelry, and raffles. Lunch is available off South Meadow Road in Carver. I think everybody knows where South Meadow Village is. But it's usually a good time, good causes. The money goes to charities and different things, scholarships. So, it's a win-win for the community. Come on out, have a good time, see your neighbors, spend a little dough, and pick up something to bring home with you. And another one, Our Lady of Lourdes Parish Jingle Bell Fair, Friday, November 2nd, from 4 to 8 p.m., and Saturday, November 3rd, 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. So there's no conflict between either one. Just save up your money. They got the big raffle, Chinese raffle, giant menu of prizes to pick from, the magical Christmas tree, $100 and assorted lottery tickets on one tree, Santa, baked goods, white elephant, hand knits, table, snack bar, and kitchen. Crafters are welcome at $50 per table, but hurry up because space is limited. Please call the parish office, 508-866-4000, and we will try to run these up right up until the times of the events, so I can stay out of trouble. Additionally, the food pantry, we've already covered that a couple times, but I'll reemphasize it one more time. Please dig down deep, give what you can. It's going to be a tough winter. They're expecting fuel prices to spike, Social Security raises to be practically nil, 1%, max $24. For a lot of recipients, that's not a whole lot of money. It's not going very far. So there's going to be a lot of need, a lot of demand this winter. So the other thing was that there was something in this beacon about animal control bylaws. I thought I had sent something to put it on the agenda.
Yeah,
Supposedly we're supposed to refine our laws or something, or
There was something in our
haven't
packet
assigned
for
a
the
bill.
stray dogs.
Yeah.
Well, I
Yeah.
put on the stray dogs,
Okay.
the new law.
I don't know if you want to take a look at that and see what the legislation said, but it says
Sure.
we need to upgrade all of our bylaws.
Yeah.
So I thought that we might just open it for discussion, maybe have the ladies come in and tell us. They're probably more knowledgeable about this than we are
Probably
anyways.
got some bulletins on
Yeah.
it of some type.
And just to make sure that we're doing
Sure. That,
the upgrade that we
that's
need.
fine.
Last but not least, please keep our servicemen and women serving around the world in your thoughts and prayers, especially as we approach the holiday season. Very difficult time to be away from home. I can tell you that from firsthand experience. So just keep them in your thoughts and prayers. God bless you, God bless the town of Carver, and God bless America. Thank you and good night.
I move we adjourn.
So, second.
We have a motion and a second. It's open for discussion. Anybody want to fight that?
Nope, I'll have to watch